blah, blah. All right. Mic check. All right, all working. Let's see if we can switch. Ah, magic. Um, should do. Oh, well, I'll post it. There we go. Everyone, welcome to the Betterment Broadcast. I'm your host. This is the 75th show, so I believe. And that's not too bad. All right, good. We're going to have some fantastic day today. A lot of good stuff. Of course, we're going to be talking to the community. You know, this show is about community networking and people talking to each other, finding solutions. But before we do all that good stuff, let's go through the traditional intro, just so people know the ground rules, have to have some kind of discipline. So let's go. So after much research, I've unfortunately concluded that currently black people are collectively inadequate. Very sad, very sad indeed. But we shall try to deal with that. That is an issue that many people might try to hide from, but it's one that we embrace here because we have to face and try to find solutions to this problem. And let's see if we can do that within the confinements of the show. Let's say hi to Sister She Reigns. Very good mod, very good supporter there. Very good, part of the crew. That's what we do. All right, cool. So obviously, when we're going to send the link out, we're going to expect, if possible, black people to be civilized and you try to find solutions. So we need some kind of value system. So what do we use? We use the 4D value systems, which is, I hear people potentially thinking, which is discipline, dedication, dignity, and discernment. Very important. If you can use these 4Ds, generally when you're trying to talk to black people, whether on this show or outside, I can assure you solution finding will be that much more easier. Try it. Let me know if it works. If not, I'll try something else. All right, cool. So obviously, if we can also try to use derogatory language, we will be playing some videos that maybe one or two words might slip through because we're actually reviewing and we're reviewing normal day-to-day life and stuff. But generally, when it comes to talking and communicating and trying to find solutions, try not to use derogative language, f-bombs, all that kind of stuff. If you can, it makes finding solutions that much more easier. Again, so what is Black Betterment? Black Betterment is black people helping black people on black issues for betterment. That's what the show's about. If you didn't know, now you know. So we break it down as a lifestyle. So we are teaching, preaching, and trying to reach everyone to practice a lifestyle of black betterment. That's pretty much what it's about. So you take this formula, and try to go out and make black people practice the lifestyle of black betterment, and that way. The challenge that we described in the intro will hopefully diminish. All right, have to read this now. Give me some time. Copyright under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowances made for fair use of purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, personal use, tips the balance of the favor fair use. Does that even works? But we kind of read that just to let you know we're not all the stuff we're going to have here. We will be directly copyright to us, if anything at all, to be honest. So we just want to make sure we're not stealing people's intellectual property or anything like that. We just, it says it there, aren't we? This is for news reporting, scholarship, and research. That's right. What's that? Oh, cool. That's fine. So that's good. So, okay. Straight away into today's show. Excellent. So what is today's show about? I hear no one say. Well, it's about this. Begging versus building in a fantasy world. All right. We study the benefits of black-owned media franchise and how ownership works in the favor of black people. So why we do this week? Here's why. I think I came across two things. One, there's this new Amazon Lord of the Rings show. This is like a big thing in the Lord of the Rings world because Amazon, very rich company. Is it Amazon? Yeah, it's Amazon, very rich company. They managed to secure the rights of Lord of the Rings. Now, Lord of the Rings is an old fantasy novel, and they've made films about it, and the films have been finished. There was 6 films, and technically there's not really that much stories left. So Amazon managed to get after viewing Game of Thrones and maybe Star Wars and these kind of like big franchises, they managed to secure a rights deal to allow them to make somewhat original material on Lord of the Rings, something like that. And they've done this, and obviously they've released it, and there's much outcry by many of the fans of the actual franchise. Now, the reason why there's outcry is because basically there's trailers coming out, and in the trailers there are pretty much black people in the trailers. That's pretty much it. In a nutshell, just to give you some back history, in the mainstream at the moment, in many kind of like big franchise world of superheroes and goblins and robots and all that kind of stuff, whatever. In that world, what's happening is there's obviously some kind of new management, and they've got some kind of quotas or something where they have to try to get in lesbians, black, non-white people, I should say, strong female characters, feminists, this kind of stuff, and transgendery kind of stuff. So all that kind of what they describe as minorities, they have to get those into all those kind of epic franchises that many of the big names have, and obviously there are many fans who are not best pleased with this. Some feel that they're crowbarring characters into age-old franchises. It's an interesting thing we should really study that, like why franchises are the way they are, and all that kind of stuff. But either way, so this obviously is an issue with the Lord of the Rings because they're saying it's predominantly it's hard for them to tell the gay characters, or the feminist characters, I guess, whatever. But the black characters stand out. So that's been the one that in the Lord of the Rings. If you can see the image, the guy with the flames in this image, if you can even see it, to the right of the screen, he's an elf. An elf is traditionally like a Nordic European, I guess, a Nordic magic being of some kind. And in this particular Amazon Prime show, one of them is a black brother, sorry. And yeah, so there you go. So it's obviously hullabaloo or whatever. But that's not really what this is about. I'm not really going to do a show about the complaints of people. Because to be honest with you, if we really divulge deep into it, I might even agree with them for the reasons I'm about to unpack. Now, I'm just while people are complaining and the whole Lord of the Rings people are arguing all on the Amazon and this kind of stuff, whatever. There's another brother. Let me see if I get their names right. I'm probably getting their names wrong because I'm a fool. But there's a brother who I think is Manuel. I think could be saying it wrong. But either way, this brother started a company called Black Sands Entertainment. I want to say I should have my research papers here, but I don't. I actually do follow him quite a lot, and I have followed a lot of the stuff he's done. But the reason I said it is because there's a template he's done that's very important. So this is a brother who started a comic company that originally was meant to be video games, and all the content is based around black a form of black empowerment in the sense of characters that isn't based upon slavery and this kind of stuff, like ancient Egypt and powerful sorcerers and all this kind of stuff, right? But yeah, so it's basically black fantasy, right? Say like that. And yeah, what was good about him is he actually he went on a couple show and he came with his wife, and once again, he came with a beautiful black wife, which is always good. It's always good to show the people who are ambitious, creative, having black wives and that kind of stuff. That was good. But what I'm gonna do is how should we start this? Let me what I'll do is first I'm gonna start with some of the complaints about the other franchise now. So this is some European white individuals complaining about the black characters that are in Lord of the Rings, I believe, the new franchise. And then we're going to segue from that to seeing some of the moves that the Black Sands CEO was doing in order to make his own fantasy. Now, before we go into it, the reason why I'm saying this is because many years ago, I was always saying that there's a benefit for black people or African people to be Afro-centered or black-centered in pretty much every creation you do that's creative if possible. And this is something I've been saying for a long time. Like, for example, if your son or your daughter makes a book, and the book, it's a fantasy or sci-fi, whatever it is, the more black characters is in there, the more likely that hopefully a black media company can pick it up and turn that book into a film or a game or a franchise. And then naturally, when that book is turned into a film, they need to hire characters, and look, you've made every single character of African descent or whatever it might be. So that's more work for black children or black actors. And then it goes on TV, more black people are seen doing different things or constructive things or very heroic things, and it just adds to the whole collection of data and content that can sway and influence and uplift all that good stuff, the black community. Unfortunately, historically, many black people were Eurocentered, so when they may potentially write things, it'll be from a European standpoint. And then if those books become famous, naturally you're not hiring black people, which is it's just the kind of science of life there. So anyway, why did I say that? So yeah, that was that, and so blah, 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 here it is. So yeah, let's keep that in your mind, and we're going to now listen to some of the complaints about black people being in Lord of the Rings. Now, remember, this is a European franchise written by a European individual trying to mythologize Englishness, or whatever it might have been, or dramaticness, I don't know. And so naturally, that will be predominantly European people who should be playing, so you think. But let's listen anyway. Voila.
Close to African features. Just some guy put it perfectly right here. You know, none of the dwarves in his books are described as having anything remotely close to African features.
All right, so what we're seeing here is that one of the characters is a black lady, a very beautiful black woman, but she's playing a dwarf. A dwarf, for those who don't know, is I want to say maybe a Nordic short warrior race of people, but they all typically have beards and they're white. But the princess of them in this particular Amazon rendition is a black woman. You can't really say African American or even African, because I don't think that land exists in this fantasy tale. So, but either way, the actor would be of that descent. And obviously, many people are not best pleased for the reasons we shall find out.
These people are just obsessed with building all of these narratives around. They're just making stuff up. They're just making things up. They're legally not allowed to change anything Tolkien created. So they created new characters just to add diversity. Literal token black characters. In a bold move, the Rings of Power condenses Tolkien's Middle-earth timeline and adds entirely new characters. A bold move for Hollywood. Hollywood's never done anything like that. It's going to get really bad.
And then we get to the garbage. Here we have Durin the Fourth. He's looking pretty good. He's looking like a dwarf. And then we have the Dwarven Princess. A Dwarven...
There's another brother. Showing his dislike. Let's see what he's like.
Princess. No, this is not a Dwarven Princess. This is not even a dwarf. First and foremost, a Dwarven Princess, meaning that she is probably a direct descendant of Durin, the father of dwarves. Yet she is black. How? And why did this happen? But
so another white individual not best pleased about the black dwarfs.
You know what? I'm not even the most pissed off about that, because here's the thing. Amazon, as we know, have literal quotas on the inclusion of minorities, of people with the correct skin color getting the job for free.
Something we want to cover as well that's very important, and remind me to do it, even though you probably won't, and that is why black people are the face of minorities. We have to go through that before we move on, but this is probably...
This woman is a diversity hire. She's not the best actor, she's not the best woman for the job, she's not the most talented, she's simply the one with the correct pigmentation in her skin. And I truly do hope that that will plague her for all eternity. Because the greatest crime here isn't the quotation, isn't the, oh, you got the job because you look correct. No, she doesn't have a goddamn beard. And this, by the way, is how you know it is malicious. This is how you know it is propaganda. This is how you know that she was not hired because she was the best actor, or because she fit the role, or she somehow just carried the producers off their feet with her breathtaking performance. She is a princess of all things, Khazad-dûm.
Welcome to Sister Tash, welcome.
The most ancient of all dwarf halls, the deepest of all of them, where the dwarves lived so far beneath the earth that most of them probably forgot what the sun looked like, and yet...
Thank you, Sister
Here
Christy.
she is, a black woman.
Please remind me. There we
Without a
go.
beard.
Right, so for those who are joining, basically there's a new Amazon show. Well, Lord of the Rings is now becoming a serial show on Amazon. Very big news. They spent over £1 billion, something like this. But many of the fans are not best pleased because many reasons. But just a nutshell, they are black characters. But this isn't the punchline of today, because we will segue somewhere else. But just have a listen to what the Europeans or the white people, the Middle Earthers or whatever, are saying about the black characters. And let's carry on.
Not only, again, this is how you know it's malicious. The skin color can't happen, but again, quotations and the modern year. You kinda expect it. But the no beard part, that's the one that truly grinds my gears. Because you know that was done on purpose, simply just to kick up a fuss and bullshit outrage by people who want this to be Lord of the Rings, not Amazon's billion-dollar production starring random minorities, selected primarily for their pigmentations. All dwarves are born with a beard. Born.
So he's not best pleased. Obviously, he's black, but apparently in the books, all the dwarves have beards, and this doesn't have a beard, so he's not best pleased at the moment.
With it, and the females look pretty much exactly the same as the males, to the point where they can't be.
Very interesting folklore within the Middle Earth stuff. Like a lot of the European dwarves look like the men and the women. You can't really tell them apart. I don't know where that came from, because obviously a lot of this is based upon like English folklore and English town people and stuff. So I don't know where that came from, but that's what they really want to see.
Held apart by most
culture
of the other races. Furthermore, dwarf women tend to dress just like dwarf men. Whereas again, does this look like typical dwarf male attire? No? Strange that, I know. And this too, right? This is another example.
And there's another one. So there's a few black characters. This one was, well, actually, this is two. But this one's an elf. This is a black elf. I've covered it already, but let's see what we have to say.
So here you have a black elf, right? As they point out to, the first black elf in Lord of the Rings history. Right. Okay, so you know that you are being malicious with this, but again, what pisses me off the most is not even his skin color, it's his hair.
Not even his skin color, it's his hair.
Almost all the elves, in fact, I think literally all the elves we see have long, beautiful, silky,
Notice the word beautiful there?
flowing hair. And yeah, this guy, just short, cropped hair.
Right, yep. Beautiful long hair, but short crop hair. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, God, at least give him a wig. For fuck's sake, at least do that, the bare minimum. Make him look elven beyond slapping on a pair of plastic ears to his face. God, it's so dumb. And obviously as well, he is a sylvan elf. He is a grey elf. Again, this is how you know it's not stupidity, it's not a lack of research, it is malicious. They know they're getting it wrong, and they are doing it on purpose.
About Middle
Moving on to the next person now. This is another guy. He's not best pleased. He's going to listen to him for a bit.
Earth and about a certain location on Earth, and Tolkien was very
Well spotted there by our sister Kushti, beautiful silky blonde.
specific about what all of these different people there looked like. And spoiler alert, absolutely none of them looked like this. But we're going to get into it. That is the reason why so many people are upset, because it's quite clear that they have no intention of staying true to the lore of Lord of the Rings, whether it's bringing in diverse characters, whether it's taking characters that are already established that we know their history, like Galadriel, and completely bastardizing them in a way they were not supposed to be. It doesn't matter.
So as a reminder, the issue with many shows to a lot of the viewers of the kind of like the nerd society, that kind of like, you know, fantasy, sci-fi, superhero kind of stuff, is that the minority crew, which is, as we can define as feminist women, LGB, homosexuality kind of people, non-white people, so black usually spearheads that, and gays, but I think I said that already, to be honest. So these kind of these types being pushed into ancient franchises, this is a problem that many of the nerd society are having, but obviously because it's spearheaded with black people kind of get the first kind of like criticism. That's something we're going to unpack as well.
That's what they're doing. They're going
Because the question we have to ask is, who's pushing that forward?
to use the name Lord of the Rings to try to sell this, to try to get people to watch it. However, what they're presenting has nothing to do with Tolkien. It's just bastardizing his work and shoving identity politics into it. Amazon's Lord of the Rings team knew they'd face Tolkien fan backlash over diverse casting. Do you know why? Because all of these characters and all of these races of people, they were given very specific instructions on how they looked and how they did not look.
Very important point there. The gentleman who made Lord of the Rings, in the writing description of his fantasy, he described them, and he would describe the skin color, the height, the hair color, the eye color, that kind of stuff. This is something that you want to be influencing black authors to do. Make sure you describe, black people very thoroughly if you can, because as you know, there are certain religious books of the past, and when Europeans got a hold of them, they end up looking very different, even though they might have been described that way. But they probably said it was metaphors. So make sure you literally, even with pencils, draw how the people look. That will be helpful, just to make sure that you can get black people to represent black people in the black book. Let's carry on.
Look, and you have ignored that. Here's the quote. Who are these people that feel so threatened or disgusted by the idea that an elf is black or Latino or Asian? The problem is not that an elf is black or Latino or Asian. The problem is, that that's not what the lore says about these characters, and you're doing it anyway. No one's disgusted by the movie Black Panther because all the Wakandans are black. No one, not a single person out there is disgusted by the fact that there's so many black people in this movie. No, it makes sense for that movie for there to be so many black people, because that's the region we're talking about. That's the history of this character, of T'Challa, of Wakanda, of all these things. You wouldn't expect for half of all Wakandans to be white, for half of them to be Latino, for some Native American Wakandans. No one would expect that because it makes no sense with the continuity and with the lore. And there'd be a lot of white people and Latino people that would be screaming out as Lord of the Rings looks like.
Let's skip through this guy. This is one more guy. Big up Born Rich Club. Big up. Let's see now. The last pundit, only 4 seconds. See what it says.
Only question I have is, where is the Sylvan Elf barbershop in Middle Earth? You may call this a nitpick, but it really isn't. And this is what happens when you depart too much from the source material. It stops looking like it. This trailer doesn't feel anything like Lord of the Rings. And there we have our strong black female dwarf without a beard. Now, the question remains, why didn't they put a beard on her? Are they worried about attractiveness? Well, they didn't need to worry about much. They managed to put a beard on a female dwarf in The Witcher. Why not do it in Amazon's The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power? Especially when you're adapting one of the most detailed stories ever written. Well, I think it's because they didn't want to make her any less attractive. What does that say about Amazon? Oh, look, the Don Lemon elf is chained up by his leg in a totally unrelated statement. I'm wondering if we're going to get any of that modern messaging that we all know we're going to get. Remember, the Don Lemon elf is supposed to be in a forbidden relationship with a single mom. Guess who's coming to second breakfast? Oh!
Right, cool. There you go. So what we're going to do now is, so basically, we're not going to unpack that yet. What I want to say is, basically, many white people are not best pleased that many of the black characters are in the Lord of the Rings. The question we have to answer is why is there black characters? Who is spearheading that? Is it right or wrong? Not really going to ask that question now. One theory I'm pushing forward is there is the kind of like minority coalition movement kind of stuff, which is usually led by maybe homosexual, lesbian, kind of transgender authority, whatever. They get in a certain place in power, and they put quotas in there, and everyone has to be represented. But usually, black people are used as the spearhead, so they'll go through, they'll get all the arrows, and then once they've got through, then the others come through. It's harder to shoot down black people because of the history of pain and stuff than it is maybe feminist, strong character women and something like that. I don't know, right? So this is something that I'm noticing. Once again, don't know if it's the best use of time. You always want black people to get paid, but one of the solutions I push forward is black people owning their own media and making their own content. Hence why we're going to segue into a better solution than getting the trans LGBT community to throw black people into ancient European stories where Europeans really love, and they'll make thousands of videos complaining about black elves, whatever. Is to actually do your own kind of content where you are firmly centered in Afro-centricness or black-centricness or all the centricness that makes sense. So we're going to go to Black Sands. So this is a company called Black Sands. Now what I'll do is, have I uploaded that one? I don't think I have. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, let's go to hold on, give me 17 seconds. Count in your head. Share. Video open. go back, show for there, and voila, found it.
How long?
So this is a show called Black Sands. It started off as a video game, then a comic, and I mean like an automated online motion comic, I think they call it. Maybe I can't. As also a comic book that did really quite well, and I think this might be some kind of CGI trailer or maybe upcoming show. But this is made by a black company, and it's called Black Sands. Have this quick 1 minute trailer of this product.
How long has he trained you?
I did not train him. I took him into the wilderness for 5 years. He has survived.
I forbid this battle.
You will stop nothing.
Damn it, brother. Why must you be like this all the time?
Asar, you need to think this through. There is nothing to think about.
Quick trailer there. Google that on YouTube and that. Go find all the stuff there. Follow it, buy it, give them all your money. So basically, that's a franchise that I think started maybe in the 2007s, maybe before that, 17, maybe I can't remember because my memory's not as good as it used to be. But quite recently, the brother was on a show called Shark Tank, which is for those in UK. I think ours is called Dragon's Den, or Lion's Den. A lot of dragons, lions, sharks, this kind of thing. It's a universal brand. I can't remember which is which because I don't really watch it, but I'm sure you do. But this is him on there. It's and he turned up with his wife and I guess a friend of his. But the more important is to know that he's the owner. His wife is there supporting him, and she's also part of business. And he's there pitching to people to try to get funding for this comic franchise. So let's see what happens there. Which one is it? I believe it's this one, but I could be wrong. Rewind.
Look, you got 5.
All sharks are still in. Mark and Kevin Hart are interested in animation.
So Mark and Kevin Hart are interested. Kevin Hart there is a famous comedian, one of the highest successful comedians, I believe, at the moment.
Company Black Sands, but they want a much bigger stake in the company than the 5% they came in offering.
This is what I do.
You're the green light that they need in order to get to the next level, right?
Look, you got $500,000 on the table, but we want 30%. And I think that's more than fair.
Can I counter?
You're nuts.
Of course. Y'all tell me if I'm crazy or not. $500,000 for 10% between the two of you, and perpetuity on books. 25 cents per hardcover.
The royalty deal. No, that's not what this
Thank
is about.
goodness I'm here.
No, because you know as well as I do, the grand slam
Because you see the brother trying to haggle. Very good. Very good.
doesn't come from making per book. It's when this gets picked up for a movie and turns into a franchise.
So notice he said there why they really want to actually purchase this particular thing is not necessarily because of the per sell per book, but franchising now, as in like movies and games, this kind of stuff. I remember I told you before that when you make films and comics and this kind of stuff about comics and games, whatever, about black characters, if they get turned to a big franchise, this is a way of hiring thousands of black people and also getting black people on the screen. It's, so this brother is starting the legacy of that content, but not only that, he's a black man who's gone on and he's with his black wife. Very good. It's always good aesthetically to see that. Very nice. It's kind of look.
He's the producer.
I'll give you last example.
I'll take the royalty.
I'll give you here's the last example. Okay.
And also something to note is there is also a black man who's going to invest already. That's free ticks, black empowerment product, black man business on the show with his wife, and a black man who's going to invest in it. That's free ticks there so far, so that's very good.
This is where my creative mind goes as a CEO. What I'm telling you is that my 30% ask is not because of the hypothetical opportunity. I'm embedding you into my system.
I understand 100%, but I raised capital on that last valuation, and to literally go 6 times.
How much have you raised?
I raised $1 million, and the last 500 was at 5%.
Yeah, but that's not the point.
It's just.
The problem here is there's partners and then there's partners. Get the difference? Some partners aren't created equal.
And when you tell your investors who you just brought in, it's not about the valuation that they paid, it's the valuation of where it's going so they can get a return, right?
Yes. And by the way, I would not be asking for this particular number if you didn't have to access my real resources. You said we're going to get some creative people to come in, new animation, new stories. I have that.
Okay.
That engine is already working. It's already pumping. You're tapping into an ecosystem that exists.
Okay, my fans, they want this done. So you guys got a deal.
That's it.
Let's go.
So there you go, there's brother. Now we're going to do, before we start talking, we're going to, he was on the Breakfast Club. I don't know how much I can play because I tried to blackify it so it doesn't get algorithm strike. But let's see if we just listen to something.
In the morning that not enough black people are in.
Oh yeah, well, there's actually a whole bunch of people that's in this lane, right? They just never got the eyes on them. If you go to a convention, you'd be surprised how many black people are there, like that are actual like independent creators. We tend to be like the majority.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw the link out there just for people who want to jump in. Where is that link? Make sure it's the right one. Yeah, that looks like it's the right one. Voila. All right, just going to, as I play it, and then when someone jumps in, we'll start talking about the good stuff, but I'll do my monologue as well.
The independent creators there, So, we just haven't really had a chance to be, front and center.
Well, let's start from the beginning. How did you get into the comic book world? How did you get into that world?
Animating.
Very nice to see the brother there with his wife. Very good, powerful image there. Brother, he's got a black-owned product, very black focus with his black wife. And that sounds like, we're going, whoa. But that really is something that needs to be trained. Unfortunately, good to see that. And yeah.
Mating and all that.
Go ahead, Joe.
So this started back in 2016 when my husband, he wanted to make a video game called Black Sands.
Nice to see the wife knows about the business and is introducing very good stuff for you to learn there, people. Very good, very good.
And so the production cost a lot of money.
Did you support him at first? Or you was like, yeah, whatever.
I did. He was like, yo, if this doesn't work out, I promise you I get a 9-to-5, work at Panera Bread somewhere.
This was his last rapper demo.
Exactly.
This was the last rapper demo.
So it was really expensive to do the video game.
Oh yeah, it was like
very
20K.
expensive.
We already burnt 20K. We had, it was way too much when I realized that the final production would take so much more. And I was like, it's too early. I don't have a big enough fan base yet. I just can't get the money, So I was like, let's pivot. Let's make a comic book off the same series. We went to Kickstarter, and then we raised like 20,000, on a $4,000 Kickstarter. And the rest was history after that. We just started running.
Yeah, people don't understand how expensive it is to do the animation and everything. I remember I hired some people I knew to do some animation for my podcast for Lip Service. And just for that 60 seconds, it was so expensive.
That manpower,
I know.
It's like, what, 24 drawings per second?
Right, yeah. Hope I don't get a strike. But
Right? So,
voila.
It can get crazy.
Feel free, I'll put the link in the group, jump in. I shall do a little monologue after this, but we're going to start talking about begging versus building in a fantasy world. And we're showing the parallels between this new Lord of the Rings show where many Europeans, Middle Earthers, are not best pleased that black people are in it, versus this brother here making his own franchise and, from every single level, it being black owned and black funded and black focused. And potentially being a franchise that could rival other fantasies where hopefully, well, not hopefully, they will be hiring people who look like the brothers making it. So that's very good.
So you started making a series, and how did you get heard? Before Shark Tank, how did you get your stuff out there? How did people see it? How did you create a fan base?
Well, I'm a monster when it comes to social media platforms and also advertising. So, if you even see my stuff once and hit the like button, the Facebook gods are gonna hunt you down for the rest of your life until you follow me, right? And so we started the online business about in 2017. Right at the end of the year.
So started in 2017, and in a few years he's now got his big. Well, I guess he got a big break before, but I guess his TV break. I guess.
Here. I had bought a kiosk in Hoover, Alabama. I was like, I'm gonna go and sell books right in the mall, right? And
all right. I'll leave it there. Let me skip freeze influence. We'll skip backwards to the guy.
News, right? I just need to.
There we go, Brother Kel. We're gonna let Brother Kel come in. Welcome. Make sure I haven't missed anyone.
Be in front, so I could show people what we've done.
Do you think the crowdfunding, because you guys did get $1 million in crowdfunding, so you think once Shark
What was interesting, his brother actually did manage to get £1 million support there. And, it's a franchise that's about Kemet, ancient Egypt, but fantasy, flying over stuff and all that good stuff there with black characters and all types of skin types. And even, I think one guy even has vitiligo, which Michael Jackson would have liked that. Maybe if he did this early, Michael Jackson would have turned white, all that good stuff. So yeah, it's good to see that kind of stuff in there. Let's skip ahead and see if there's anything else.
Well, we have a huge amount of people who are under us right now, under the brand. We have about 18 different titles published to Black Sands, including stuff like this one, right? And King Lion, he's a huge creator of ours on. He's huge on TikTok too.
So he's now promoting other Black authors who publish through his particular distribution company.
Right, he somehow outdid me. I was like, I brought you onto this platform. He was like, yeah, well, I am the master now. I was like, okay, you got me, man. I got the publisher.
Once again, good to see his wife there, knowing everything that's going on, laughing and joking with him. Good look.
You're right, so you good.
I think it's great, and the reason I think it's so great is growing up, I was never in the comics, right?
Oh, I love them.
I was never in the comics because there was never any comics that looked like me on my.
So a little statement there. Some people never got into comics because they never saw people like them. Very important point. Many Black people never see themselves in anything of any kind of constructive or fantasy or historic kind of nature that might make them want to be proud. We saw it, I guess, with the whole what's it called, Black Panther, but unfortunately that wasn't owned by Black Africans or Black people. So it's good, but it's not good, but it's good enough, I guess, for now. Brother Cal, did you want to say something? Am I wrong? Welcome to the show. Sorry.
How you doing, brother? It's a blessed Friday, and it's always blessed Betterment Friday too, brother. So how you doing, brother?
I'm good. I was I came across this brother randomly. I've been following him for years on Instagram, this stuff, but it's only recently I saw he got onto this show called The Breakfast Club, and it's quite a big show. So that's always good because what I like about this show is I don't really hear the music they play. I suspect the music is quite error prone, but what I do like is occasionally they put on some person who gives some kind of empowerment knowledge or some kind of Black focused or African focused content occasionally, which is always good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have lovely chemistry. They look like positive family. Yeah, the sister, of course, she's talking about the dynamics of the husband and wife and the group business and the support of the wife and good stuff. Let's see what DJ Envy says about this Black comedy.
Friends. So I always, you watch the movies that was about my friends, whether it was Juice and the drug dealer movies, because that's what I seen. But I think it's dope that these.
The brother's telling you that unfortunately a lot of the movies he would watch is about drug dealers and this kind of stuff. But it's good to see more constructive, more empowerment based kind of characters. You never got too many of them, to be honest, especially in the 80s and well, there was occasional Mr. T and that kind of stuff, but generally no, it wasn't that well spread out.
Kids, especially Black kids, can see people that look like themselves in these comics. I never seen them.
And not only look like themselves, back in the day, it was all like street level superheroes that were Black, So when Black Panther came around, or like when Kevin Griot made Blue Marvel, like those God level Black characters, that's when it was like, so what you're doing is like, these are, God level Black characters, not Luke Cage in the street getting paid Harlem for hire back in the day.
They're not even God level because they're strong, but they're kings, so they have to deal with the actual ramifications of leading a nation at the same time as taking on ancient gods at the same time. So it's a different kind of vibe. I got titles here who are actually just straight up historical dramas. And like Madagascar, Queen Wermavo.
Good brother here, man. Good brother. I must say, it was good to see this to balance out that fun behavior of the Amazon Lord of the Rings. I must say this though, honestly. The whole Lord of the Rings stuff and Black people getting booed off and people not wanting them to be in it. For me personally, this is not really an issue. I do feel that how to say this? I do feel that me personally, I do believe that a lot of these new shows coming out where they have to make a quota have been spearheaded by non-Black people, and Black people are used as a way to get other people's agendas into certain movies. You will realize now there will be more kind of strong European feminine roles. You'll get more transgendered stuff, and where it becomes, I guess, where some of the complaints might make sense is a lot of the content that they're coming in, it wasn't about that in the first place, and I think that's where the complaint comes by. And I think if you take a character like Superman or I don't know whoever else is famous out there, right, and you just replace them with a Black woman, you are going to get a lot of backlash on Black women. You see, and it's like, rightly or wrongly, that's something that we need to be aware of. And I do feel that there are many characters that who are Black already who could appear in these franchises, or more importantly, Black-owned media and black people, like the brother said, he raised £1 million on a fundraising of, I think, one of his comics, I believe it was. I think he raised 20,000. The first thing he did, 20,000 of a 4,000 for his video game. But I mean, video games cost expensive, so he couldn't do that. But he got $1 million of something, and then obviously now he's on the Sharks tank or something, getting funding from, which was very good, by the way, being funded by the comedian. I forgot his name because my brain's mush peas now. But what's that guy? What's the comedian guy called? Him, that guy, funny guy. I'm sure I'll come to me in a couple of minutes. But anyway, so Brother Kel, let me switch to the blah. Begging versus building in a fantasy world. We study the benefits of black-owned media franchises and how ownership works in the favor of black people. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna go back to the comic book, which is been classed as media now, is and Stanley, he's a brilliant man. I won't assassinate him, but at the same time, he does, mention it, and also clarifies it that the Marvel characters is based upon our African deities, and the African youth and nowadays need to understand that if they don't want us in their comic books or their films, at least we should be happy with that and know that all the superheroes were based upon the African deities. Those who know about Ifa and knows about the ancestors, what they, as it pertains to emulating strength, like Ogun is based upon Logan, Oya is based upon Storm from the X-Men, and the list really goes on. So them not wanting us to be in the film, things like that, we should be happy. We really should be happy and create something which is real. We should make films upon the African deities, which is named after powerful meanings which they've franchised and made billions off. So yeah, definitely, man, we need to focus on some aspects of the media.
Right, good point. So just so you don't know, there's a company called Marvel. That's one of the biggest superhero ones, and most people know that. Stanley's it was the person who wrote most of the stories, and he was a well versed man in study of history and stuff. And a big part of his studies was like the African deities and the African stuff, and he would bring that into many of his stuff. Indirectly and directly. So indirectly, the brothers say that how it was affecting some of the more famous superheroes, but actually he did take actual like Orishas and Ogun and this kind of stuff and just put them in Marvel. Yeah. And this is something that they would do because it's very easy, because those particular belief systems isn't copyrighted, so you could just put them in, and it's not so you can just put them in and do what you need to do. But like I said, the more of the story here is we are we are like paralleling that kind of. I guess begging might be a bit strong, but because once again, in this particular context, black people weren't begging to get into Amazon new show, but the backlash has hit them, us, or the actors, very, very, very highly. And the solution to that really is what this brother's doing. If I'm being honest, like I can't floor him at all. Like, he's on the show, he's with his wife, his content is all Afrocentric. He's getting funding from another rich black brother. I think that template there is a very good one. I can't really floor it. It's actually very impressive, and I'm very, very proud of so far what I've witnessed, and the fact that he's done his own fundraising campaign, which is also very important. If you got ideas, as you know, if you were to watch the show we just watched there, the Sharks Den, you realize that as you brothers and sisters go on these shows, these sharks will pick you apart and they'll try to take everything and they'll try to take more. So that's why, if possible, if you can get some kind of promotion on a public raising site or a fundraising site, that might be an option as well. But once again, it is really that starting base, like being Afro-centered, the black-centered, very important, because it's almost like every idea you do sits upon the old idea. Let's welcome Empress Kushti. Always great to see her. Welcome, Empress Kushti.
What's up, family?
Wow. So let me just finish. Welcome.
Hi.
So, like I was saying before, Christy gives us a perspective. Is if you start if you're Afrocentric or a Black-centric base, that means as you start progressing, you'll be affecting more Black people positively and constructively. So you start a company, hopefully your first partner is your fantastic Black wife or your Black husband, if you're a woman, and you have your franchise, hope you have each other's back, whatever. You do your Afro-centered content. You hire your African and Black staff. You try to get funding from the Black community. Your content is based on Black people. Try to get funding from our Black people. It becomes the biggest franchise in the world. Then a Black media company takes it, hires more Black people to act in it, and then you're literally creating the ecosystem of where Black people can be hired and promoted, and constructiveness and the balance of the world can be tipped. So that's really good, fantastic, mega ultra good stuff. Empress Christie, would you like to say anything on the topic?
Yes, it was a great example that you shown of the brother. I'm not really into Marvel and things like that, so I'm not really aware. But for some reason, Black Sands did ring a bell to me though. When do you know what year he went to? What's it? The Shark Tank?
I think it was recently. I think it was like this month or something. Maybe.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not going to see what the is something to look out for and to map his journey in regards to the money that he got and what he does with that.
Yeah,
that's really good. It's something we should keep an eye on and monitor. Just to keep support and also to monitor it from a like a political standpoint and see how he goes and how he works to get through this, because when I was listening and you brothers mentioned that a lot of the action figures are already from African descent, or they've come from a story or folklore or culture not of their own. And that rang bells to me, because when I was watching the video, you could see how much they jumped, but it was very interesting how the position that they are the investors, right? They all were, you could see that they almost showed their card, they showed their play to make sure that they could get him, because when he pushed back, which was brilliant, when he pushed back and he gave an alternative to cut it down, because I think Kevin Hart was saying that he wanted faith split between him and another dragon, right? Their version of dragon and shark, I'm assuming. And he pushed back on that. And when they could see that, oh, you know what, he's not desperate, or that's what the front that he put forward, that I'm coming strong. I've already rang this much to the proposed business. I've got fans. This is a liable business, and I've shown you that it's not just me talking, right? And I feel that when they started talking about actually, we don't want the comic books and things like that. We actually want the name. I don't know the terminology, but they wanted the brand, if that makes sense, right? They were saying that these kind of things can then get turned into movies and things like that, which correlates to what you brothers are saying of the history of constantly knowing that these kind of stories work. And if effectively what we'd see with, I know a lot of brothers say things like Iron Man was originally black and things like that. So if this great story or these series of stories that he's got falls into the wrong hands, the main lead might end up with blue eyes and blonde hair. Do you know what I mean? Like the story still premieres, but it'll be a different face. And that's why it's so important. But it's also interesting to see that what they were looking into, like when they saw that pitch, they homed in, they saw it was a good idea, and they wanted the big meat. They were like, no, we don't want, I like what you did there, but we don't want royalties. We want a slice of the bigger pie. So that was interesting.
Very interesting. And before we introduce Kusha, before we introduce you, I would say something that I can't remember the timestamp, but something that was very important that we didn't hear is the brother was he was talking about ownership, and he was talking about noticing that in Japan, some of the biggest franchises that get turned into cartoons and toys, so have made like 20 billion, 200 billion, but the owner has only made like 15 million, right? And then he looked at, I think it was George Lucas who owned Star Wars. Because he owned it, he made millions and millions and millions, whatever, right? And his thing was, he wants to own like that. But he even then said, if he ever wants to sell his franchise, he will only sell it to a black person, right? So this is very important, very, very interesting personality. Can learn so much from.
Oh, I didn't even. Is that from the interview, bro?
Yeah. So if you guys type in if you go into the Breakfast Club, and it'll be like the last 3 days, whatever. He's one, and he literally, I ain't gonna lie, everything from start to end, I can't follow the brother, and this is the kind of thing we need to do. Yeah, and it was the fact he turned up with his wife, and the wife was supporting.
Yeah.
Very, very good. But we have a new member. Is this Kusha? Welcome, Kusha. How's it going?
Hey, what's up? What's up? Yeah, everything is okay. Everything is fine, brother. And you, hopefully, everything is okay with you guys. Peace and blessings.
Welcome. So I don't know how much you saw, but we're talking about begging versus building in the more the fancy world, and we're talking about right now there's a bit of a pushback in the Lord of the Rings because they've got black characters and people are not best pleased because they don't believe black people exist in Middle Earth, but at the same time, we have brothers making their own kind of Afro-focused franchises. And ownership, but it moves on to more ownership and creation and teamwork kind of skills and stuff. Any opinions on this so far, my friend?
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to just the Lord of the Rings itself, is every time I see that, I laugh because it's somewhat degrades our own existence, being the orcs walking around roaming the earth. I think they're trying to depict us as orcs, these people that came, and try to, as savage hordes of people come in and, savages. That's what this is actually a depiction of what they saw when they saw the Burbs taking over Spain. This is exactly the same thing.
Interesting point there. Yeah, I have read that. Is it Tolkien? I believe his name was Tolkien, the English individual. I think they said that the orcs, the enemies in the Lord of the Rings franchise, they're like very gruesome, underground, very barbaric kind of beasts. These were based upon his depiction of Africa. I don't know, and I think he might have had some personal views as well, which I can't remember. I should have really gathered it, but. Yeah, this. But the thing is, the interesting thing is, if you want to go into the comic world, that's in general, and I'll probably do one in a few weeks, maybe about the history of the comics, in more so in America, but even around the world, to be honest. Every single depiction of black people would have been wicked and evil and degrading, and it would have been there'll be no exception. Like every single one. The comic industry, if you talk about the whole superhero kind of Superman, this kind of stuff, this kind of started in the 30s. So you're looking at Superman 1938, 39, Batman 1938, 39, and this kind of stuff. So from that time to like the 50s and all that, you pretty much every depiction would have been caricatures of what they call pickaninnies and coons and these kinds of things. And we'll probably unpack that, a couple, because it's very interesting to watch. But and the solution for that, and also what we should be covering, which is very good. One thing we do is there was one comic company called Negro Comics, and that was the first black-run, centered, created comic. And one of the motivations was to depict black people in a humane way and with superheroes. So actually, that was the first black-owned superhero, and I think there's two guys. One's called Lion Man, and one's called, I think, Ace Harlem. But right now, how American justice works, and I think England as well to an extent, is if you don't copyright your stuff every 80 years or something like that, it becomes public domain, something like that. So those characters are actually open for anyone to use if they wanted to turn those ancient characters, or not ancient, but old characters into modern stuff. So that's something we can unpack as well, all that good stuff. But anyway, let me stop talking. So anyone want to jump in on that? Feel free, have your opinions.
No, I mean, you laid it down very well, Raven. I can't say much more. when it comes to that, because I know that patterns and stuff like that was taken from us many times, many times, especially from the American Negroes at that times. When they came up with a lot of inventions and stuff like that. Many of these inventions were taken by others and copyrighted by others, and now they have that patent. But it was actually a black inventor behind most of the things that we see today, technology-wise. Yes. So
Very interesting. Very interesting. That what the brother was saying is, in the days back in the old days where people were enslaved, a lot of the hard work was done by the enslaved African brothers and sisters. What would happen is anything they did would have been given over to the enslavers, and history shows that. And I think the one that sticks to mind is what was that one? The beer that people, not beer, but is it rum or some kind of alcohol?
Oh, Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels.
Yeah, I remember seeing an advert where they tried to on the underground, where they tried to call the enslaved gentleman like a friend of a family, and he helped out, this kind of stuff. It was interesting of what they did to make him not look as bad. And that also, you remember that, Brother Kel?
He's Mr. Green. That's what his name, and then they changed it to Jack Daniels. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that should be a good thing to cover, like inventions that have been taken over and given. Mr. Green, which I can find Mr. Green, but okay.
Many of them, bro. You have Thomas Edison. You have all of these, all of them, bro. But these guys were free slaves, so they were free men. Many of them were also free men. They were slaves, but then they became free, and when they became free, they came out with these inventions and stuff like that. Also being, free men. Yeah.
Unfortunately, and this is, I guess you could see parallels in, I guess, enslaved people becoming a freedman and obviously not retaining their copyright. But then the parallels of why it's important that people practice Black Betterment is when a lot of the soul singers were signing their records going from gospel music to soul music and this stuff. They would sign away a lot of their publishing and a lot of their rights to European and Jewish lawyers, and a lot of them died broke. So that's why looking at empowerment and ownership, empowerment and ownership, that is what this brother's talking about, is very important. And it really is like a template that sits upon itself. So Afro-centered, Black topics, Black team, ownership, franchising, inspiration, upliftment. You got a couple people doing that, and then the trend will start, and then everyone will do it. Unfortunately, what happens is error-prone behaviors become trendified, and then that takes flight, and that's obviously something we're trying to reverse if possible.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think it was a new one they created. I think it was in Atlanta, right? Or it was a new, like a Black owned, movie directing area where it's like Hollywood, but it's like a Black Hollywood. He wants to create.
Are you talking about what's that guy called? The guy dresses up as an old woman.
Yes, that's the guy. Yeah, that's the guy.
What's his
Say it
name,
again.
Tyler Perry.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah,
I forget names. I'm bad. Baby. Tyler Perry.
Me too.
Yeah. Well done to Tyler Perry starting his own. I think it's like a media house or like a film company stuff.
It's like a whole studio.
Movie studio, and that's good.
Yeah, it's a step forward. It's a step forward, and we need to. And the thing is, it's a lot of things that we need to start. Like we said before, I think we discussed last time was like, factories and stuff like that. We need to be more productive as a community. Hence the reason why I like the topics that you have, exactly, because we need to build. We need to build. We're not beggars. We are builders. We are master builders. If you take it back to Egypt, we are master builders. We used to build things. We're not only building things in physics, physical things. We used to build things metaphysical. Spiritual, by the ways of meditation, by the ways of, having that knowledge that we had, spanning 40 years before you even can call yourself a grandmaster. You know, they had to study a subject for 40 years before they even call themselves grandmasters. You know, they're 33 degrees. These guys were 360 degrees, not 33, 360. Yeah.
Well, and what's interesting about that is a lot of those kind of ideas and norms will be used as tropes in some of the franchises that this Black brother was talking about. What was that? This is still here. Then I get rid of it. Let's say it's this one. Is this one?
It's okay. Take your time.
How long?
So this is obviously based upon ancient, and you know they've got it animated and they've probably put the lore in there. I think I would recommend you go on the site. Let me see if I can find and pull in there and just sign up to his stuff. So every time there's new content, you'll be aware.
As
of it.
he trained you, I did not train him. I took him into the wilderness for 5 years. He has survived.
I forbid this battle.
You will stop nothing.
Damn it, brother. Why must you be like this all the time?
Asar, you need to think this through. There is nothing to think about.
So I've given the link in the group. So go follow that. And if you're into all the kind of comic cartoon kind of stuff, follow that.
Brother Raven.
Go ahead, brother.
With all these, you know, truth and references that, you know, it returns back to us. You know, for example, Wonder Woman. I don't know if those used to watch it in the 70s. He was played in the 80s as well. You know, Wonder Woman, the Amazon woman, which is based upon the homie Amazon Nigerian military warriors, right? So, with this being said, brother, we know that they don't want us in Lords of the Rings, right? So, do you think that we have to nationalize our culture to prevent them from capitalizing it, and also, brother, have a genuine interest in wanting to nationalize our culture?
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess. Yeah. I mean, yeah. You want to make it as difficult as possible for other people to benefit from things that are about you or your centered around your history and stuff before you get anything from it, right? That's interesting. You say Wonder Woman. Just run the geeky fact. I'll put it in the group if it's there. I think they Wonder in the DC kind of world, they color swapped Wonder Woman to a black woman and called her Nubia.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go. I never actually saw that in the show. Was there ever a black woman called Nubia in the show?
They were, but they scratched it out, just like there was a cat woman in the man.
Yeah, also the Spider Woman, bro. Even Spider Woman used to be black.
I know Spider Woman was originally black, not the new one that's coming out, but I know one of the first Spider Woman was a black Afro woman.
That's right. Yeah. So, brother, what we've learned from this, then, brother, is that the non-Africans, as it pertains to the Europeans, right, they've nationalized, brother, a very strong mindset of going into reality as well as staying at reality, that we're going to steal and nationalize all the Marvel heroes and all those, you know, Batman and DC, keep them all European, even though they come from us. So we have to capitalize on that mindset, brother, because if we're getting like, you know, non-Africans, right, telling themselves and training their mind to believe that it came from them, then what is exactly that we're doing wrong to not have the same mindset?
Very good point there. Very good point there. I think for those, I'm just posting the link in the group. So if anyone wants to join, you're always welcome. We're talking about begging versus building, and we're talking about, and we are talking about media and you know, superheroes and this kind of stuff. But it's a general concept across the board. It could be in any form of production you're doing. You know, either begging another community for them to hire you, or building for yourself. This is what we're talking about. Let me just post that there. Voila. What did you last say, Brother Kel? The last point, because I want to jump on that. That was very good.
The last point was, brother, is that they are very adamant in practicing a very effective political science mindset of capitalizing on truth and making it their truth, even though it's false. So, what is it that we need to do, brother, to combat that mindset?
Yeah, one parallel I can remember was I saw it recently, and they were using it, I guess, in some of the stuff. It was this concept of like Egyptian and Middle Eastern content, where they'll say, "Oh, well, the Jesus character, we never said he was European," even though they'll just depict him that way. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously he couldn't be European because he's not from Europe. But they'll say we never said he was, but they'll still depict him in that kind of way. And these kind of ways of communicating. Meanwhile, I remember there was a few years back, a brother made a show called The Color of the Cross. I think that was called, where there was a black actor and he betrayed Jesus as a black man. Color of the Cross. And
I know what show that was. I watched that it was in the 90s. That guy from what's his name now? And he played that
Jean-Claude La Marie or something like that. I could be wrong. I think it's Jean-Claude Marie. The one I'm seeing, it came out in 2006, this one. So this is called The Color of the Cross. And I remember it because I remember Fox News really weren't best pleased with this concept. And they had him on the show trying to really undermine him. And but they show once again they practice a kind of form of deception where they say we never said Jesus was white, but they will always depict him as such. I'll put a link to the show there, and that's also I think on the same kind of thing they were arguing about. Someone depicted the Coca-Cola Father Christmas character as a black man, and they weren't best pleased about this as well. Some of that I can't remember, it was so long ago. But
because even though St. Nicholas is based upon the round table of those Barnabas in Europe who were propaganding polytheism to get rid of monotheism. And he is depicted anciently, St. Nicholas, as a black Turk. So
yes, this is true.
It goes back again, Brother Raven, is that they have a mindset, brother, right? As if we look at it from a strategy warfare mindset, they have a mindset that as much as it could be untrue as possible, they're very adamant and fixated into believing it as their reality. So we have to, brother, have this mindset, and we do need templates, brother, because it's come to take a lot of us to come up with this genuinely tangible solution, to have a mindset that you're not there to convince non-African people that the ancient heroes were black. You're there to convince your people, if that makes any sense.
That is something that makes super sense, and that's the whole premise of this kind of broadcast is inward solution, and to the point where it really doesn't matter what black people think. It doesn't matter. Like it's like the idea of owning your own, in the sense of whatever black people collectively believe becomes the norm and becomes a trend. The only problem I have historically with many black collective movements and ideas and creativity is it gets created and started and by black people, then it gets taken by someone else. So also ownership, like this brother was doing there, like he was very clear. He said, I own this. I don't want to give away the ownership. It's mine. But if I was to ever sell it, I would want to sell it to another brother or sister, whatever, right? So this kind of understanding, very important. Knowing that it's like it has to be taught. Like right now, these things are not trendy. These things are not, these things are not really valued. Other things are valued, like buying chains and this kind of stuff like that. And maybe trying to make ownership and highlighting strong black control, whatever it is, of characters and stuff. That needs to be the priority. Also, even things like when in the whole, say, let's go to music for example. You would have rappers naming themselves and after Italian gangsters and this kind of stuff.
That's right.
Yeah, and some of that could be really re-reviewed of like what options were they seeing? I don't know why they would think that Italians were powerful in those, but what alternatives were there? Not necessarily in the crime, although there was plenty of black people in the crime. But could they see maybe for in an ancient kind of warriors, or because obviously in the world of hip hop it was always about domination and strong masculinity, and to the point of just very extreme. But they could see that in Shaka Zulu or any kind of just overture or whatever. But many wouldn't have known this because we weren't making the franchise, because we never had the media companies. And if the little we might have done, we might have not tried to stick to the script. I think Brother Bill Cosby at a certain point did try to do a couple of historical shows when he got his money. It's a shame what happened to him because he actually generally did a lot for the black community.
Yeah, he did as well. He did, especially.
Hold on, let me just give 14 seconds. Yeah. Welcome back, Kush. I think you disconnected. Sis Empress Christie.
Sorry.
You're welcome back, brother. Anything you'd like to add, Empress Christie? Your opinion is always needed and cherished.
Yeah, I was just kind of listening because I don't know much about the history of the comics and stuff like that, so it's quite interesting. I did have something that went in my mind, but I don't really want to put a spanner in the works.
No, go ahead. No, like I said, go ahead.
I'm the person who hates it when things go off topic, but it's kind of still on topic. But it was just interesting because I was going to ask you a question, but when I was listening to you, I think you kind of answered it.
Right.
Because when I think of someone like Tyler Perry, for instance, he's black and he's done his own business. And not only that, he's done a whole studio where he rents out to others and to his own. And he hires so many black people, and he made it a point to put the studio in a place which was very unlikely. No one would have put a studio there. But when people talk about Tyler Perry, they don't really give him his dues because of the fact of the acting role that he's done. And I was just kind of thinking, is that the right mentality to have on the basis of what we're talking about ownership and things like that? But then you was talking, and there was elements to what you said about what the brother said, as in, okay, this is going to be a black-owned business, and I intend to keep it. And that's a very strong message to say in such early stages of a business, especially a business that has been certified on national TV. That's got a backing of some strong backers. So the potential of this business is to go far. And I think you can always tell people who are in for something for the money, because it's like, if they get asked a question, like, carry on now at the point where you can see that you're reaching higher goals, or get bought out for $1 million. The people who say they're going to stick with it, you can see it's a work of love. You know, it's a passion, it's a love, and they believe in it. Whereas the others who just don't necessarily have that connection or that passion or that ethos, where it was just say, "Oh, I'll just give him a meal and I'll just live my life," kind of thing. And with him, he's setting the bar now at a time where he's potentially going to get a lot of money, and he's made it clear publicly. So if he goes back on it, he knows the black community well enough to know that what would come back on him. So he's kind of set the precedent. And like you said, he said that if he were to sell it, he'd like to sell it to a black person. So I think people who can read between the lines can kind of see the mentality that the brother's on, especially with his wife. And I don't know, I think I'm just back to square one again, because I was just thinking, well, maybe you do have a point in regards to that's the difference between him and Tyler Perry. I don't know.
Well, I mean, and by all means, people can jump in on this when things come to them. But I think, I too think Tyler Perry does get a high, people. There was that concept, well, because he plays a lot of the woman role, and fair enough. It's not. I think it's more comedy, old womany kind of, rather than what one of the issues that people were pushing is that the whole black man playing seductive women roles, which is ranged in whatever. But and he's obviously been doing this since 2005 or 6, I think it was, maybe before. I think way before. I don't know. I know because he used to do plays.
Yeah, and that's how he became well known. He would do plays in circuits where they were predominantly black and women. I think they
Yes.
called it like the Chitlin circuits or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But the reason why he became so big is because obviously people would bootleg, so they'd record it and then sell it. So these DVD, and that was a time when you could go into your barbershop or whatever and buy a bunch of DVDs or black DVDs and stuff like that. So it'd go worldwide. So people were following him. So he even says that something that people can't stand kind of made him. You know, at one point, obviously, at one point, he said it was getting out of hand, but that's what made him successful. So yeah, he did. He started with plays, but he started getting famous and popular through that. If that makes sense. So the demand for stuff started growing, and he started realizing that when you start having social media and you're realizing that you're getting followers from Europe and things like that, but you're only doing it Atlanta, you know, local areas, stuff starts to click. And then he had a great business mind as well. You know, he started seeing that and he developed it, and he started doing his own official DVDs and sending them out. So a lot of the DVDs started to be official DVDs of his plays. He got enough money, he got enough backing. I think he's really good with Oprah. Started doing more other kind of movies, got more money from that, put that money into a studio, decided to do the studio in Atlanta because that's what made him. And he's built from there, bigger. So that's kind of like his background story. But people always talk about, oh, he plays a woman in a dress.
Yeah. I guess that can be, and some of the guy's business acumen, and also, I mean, unfortunately, he got divorced in 2020, but his wife seems to be a really nice person, to be honest. You know, one of the issues, this is something I was looking at as well, and this is something, I mean, people think maybe I'm being a bit too hardcore extreme. Well, there is this concept of where you have a black tycoon businessman who goes through the grind, you know, through the black community, has a black wife and does the whole thing. And then when he gets to the very, very top, gets divorced, and then his new wife to be, when he's in his elder stages of life and maybe not how many years ahead of him, is a non-black woman. And, you know, there is quite a lot of that going on. I hope that it doesn't happen to brother Tyler Perry. He's 52 now, so he's got plenty of years ahead of him. But his wife, 35, who divorced, they don't see him anymore since 2020. I wonder if he's going to pick another partner. Maybe he won't be. But that's something I'm going to be aware of.
He didn't have a wife. I think that marriage must have been very, very new because he got married in the height of his success, I think.
Well, it said partners, so maybe it's a different kind of thing. 2009 to 2020, Gilead Bekele, which is an Ethiopian sister, it looks like.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't think it's
because this is what I mean, because people were calling him, you know, people would say that he was gay for a long time, like a long time. So, yeah. So I didn't know that the relationship was, I mean, I don't know how long they were married to how long they were together, but that's still a really long time. And again, it was to a sister.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Yeah, you see. I don't know. I hope he doesn't go down the route of the white woman. I'd be surprised if he did. But I just feel that, yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I'm looking at it more so from the pattern perspective because
there's a definite pattern.
And with that, for example, the Fubu gentleman, a big part of his hip hop kind of branding was black owned, black family, black people come together, and then he became one of the sharks, and then he openly married a non-black woman and that kind of stuff. So
and Russell Simmons.
Not Russell Simmons, fair enough. Yeah, the guy who owns Fubu is called. Let me check out. So I should know this by head, but I'm a bad guy. Fubu.
Yeah, I don't know his name, but he's one of the guys on the Sharks. The Sharks.
Damon John is his name.
Oh, yeah. He's the creator of Fubu, For Us By Us. Yeah, For Us By Us.
So both him and Tyler Perry are same age, which is maybe the age that people become successful. I don't know, 52. And he is married to Heather Terez in 2018. Let's see what this lady looks like. Hold on. Voila. Yep, blonde and blue eyes. Okay, there you go. So you know, naturally we want to pour money into his For Us By Us brand. We have to make sure that it's not getting filled out because that kind of pattern. We don't want to teach the young youth because that history has happened so much to black people as the wealth gets filtered out and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's quite mixed message there. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
For
when you
him.
have a former
I'm
fire.
saying because that's what I'm saying. Some things I feel, and this is a question to all the brothers on here, but sometimes I think that some things are excusable within our community. Like a black man couldn't do stuff like that or do other things and still being considered a successful person. But if you dare dress up in a dress, it's just you're shut down.
Right. Yeah,
So,
no, I hear that.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
big problem. It is a big problem. Yeah, most
Well,
definitely. Because
I
it's just
think-
a role in a way. I understand your view on it, Empress. I think it's very, very important for people to understand that it is still just a role. It's nothing more, nothing less. And his job, he's a professional drummer. He's a professional drama guy. He's done drama for I don't know how many years. So
exactly.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's his profession.
Well, we could talk about it now. So for those who are joining, what we're talking about at the moment is brother Tyler Perry. He's a very successful brother. He's got a film studio that's doing really well, and it's very inspirational for a person who was once homeless, who started on the chitlin circuit, and now he hires many black people. And this is very constructive. This is very something that we want to see and something we want to promote. And I think the sister was saying that he was given a hard time for wearing a dress. So how do we feel about the dress wearing? I mean, one of the so let's unpack the whole dress wearing thing.
Yeah.
Let's unpack that. So let's see what the issue with the whole dress wearing thing is, and then by all means, people can jump in and add. And the links in the group, if anyone wants to jump in and add their 10 pence piece to the tale. But I think one of the issues was many historically in America and generally around the world when it comes to European facing media, many black men were always seen as very very aggressive or very I don't know what the word would be, but very over masculating, over too aggressive, too dangerous looking. And they would say that symbolically, when black people weren't necessarily allowed on TV, they would do things like King Kong that would represent black people. And also, you mentioned the brother who's talking about Lord of the Rings and the orcs, and this was a symbolic representation of Africa and this kind of stuff. And this was something that was very consistent. Now, one of the ways how white people would feel less threatened by black people's very existence was either being very comedic, a very comedy-based kind of person, always smiling a lot. If you look up a very good example is the brother who sang what is that song? Wonderful World. If you look at Louis Armstrong, I believe. If you look at that brother, in all his performances, his smile will be bigger than anything. Yeah, and that is the picture of what many European white people want to see from performers, and like very happy, comedic, smiley, very very disciplined, that kind of way. But there were other ways of how to make masculine men seem less threatening, and that was dress up as a woman, because most European men they don't necessarily are intimidated by women, or what they define as femininity, this kind of stuff. So this became an option. It was more of an option in the 80s and 90s. I think there was a film called Tu Wong Fu. That was one I remember having. Brother Wesley Snipes was dressed up as a woman, I believe. And I think it happened. A lot of the comedians would have dressed like a woman. Some wanted to do it, but I think there was a brother, Dave Chappelle, who didn't want to do this, and they forced him, and he got very displeased. And I think he disappeared to Africa to find himself because he didn't want that, plus other stuff he was going through. It was like that. So I guess the question comes into there are many comedians who actually really want to dress up like women, and Eddie Murphy, the other guy who does similar things to Eddie Murphy, I forgot his name, but he dressed up as Big Mama, this kind of stuff. I think, and they say, look, this is just it's very funny, very funny. So do we make distinctions between old women and seductive young women? I don't know if that's what people, I don't know if there is a distinction between the two. Like, is seductive, Brother Cal, you got an opinion on this? I don't know.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think it's Queen Zamarinas. She had to appear as a man in order to help the Congo region be successful in a revolt. There was a lot of discrimination, and she used a very great political science tactics, which was very effective. Now, do I like to reveal certain political science tactics online due to what we're going through? No, but I understand because of our reality and that we have to teach. Now, what I get from Tyler Perry's is that he's using the strategy of mixing good and bad to gain profits for the people, right? So, because of our situation, sometimes, Brother Raven, we may have to use those strategies
To gain what? Sorry, you kind of cut out for me.
to gain to gain the profit to better the people, right? Now, sometimes, brother, because of our reality, remember we were speaking about the error prone and the high pitch, right? Is that because we haven't sorted ourselves out with institutions, we're going to have to mix error prone and high pitch prone to get our agenda across. Do I believe what he says? As long as we know that it's error prone, that's very important. However, that's what I get from him. The only thing with Tyler Perry is that he hasn't Pan-Africanized his mind. And this is what's very dangerous when it comes to Queen Zamarinas, is that her agenda appearing as a man was to liberate her people. And it was very successful. I don't get that with Brother Tyler Perry, which we are very grateful what he did. And this is the issue. Can you pretend to be unsynchronized to better your people? Now, in this day and age, brother, we can't do that no more, because when we do become unsynchronized, we don't temporize it, we become permanent, and that's a problem. But I do understand, brother, in certain tactics that we're going to have to mix up certain elements to confuse the enemy from not knowing our correct agenda, if that makes any sense.
And what I add to that is this, and this is more about outward confession, and that is when I would go to Speaker's Corner, I would try to be very clear that I'm here to help Black people, and any strategies necessary for Black people to get together to find solutions and to be dedicated to such concept. Hence why the Black Betterment lifestyle came about, as it's something you do until you die. And it's I think one of the challenges I have seen many people is the fear or the hesitance to actually admit that you want to do something that's dedicated to your people. And I think making people comfortable with that, and whether it comes in the form of Pan-Africanism, Black Betterment, or B1, whatever it might be, where you know in your mind everything you're doing is so your people can prosper. If you don't do that, once you become famous and stuff and you start mingling and dingling with other people, those things can be easily forgot. This is not even like it's probably none of my business, but I noticed a lot of people mentioning that DJ Khaled, he's very integrated in the Jamaican and American culture, but he's from Palestine, and he never really mentions anything about Palestine at all. I could be wrong, and that might be something that they have to tackle. But
yeah, I understand that. That's true. That's true. Actually, that's actually true.
I don't really listen to him much, but I overheard it on a couple of blogs or whatever, and I was like, okay, I didn't know that. And I think
he's not doing anything for his people. No.
Right. Now, I think, don't get me wrong, we can't point fingers at Brother Khaled, because technically the majority of celebrities, they're not like they were like back in the 70s and 60s, where it was like part of your commitment, part of to be that way. I mean, amazing brothers, like probably one of the best sports athletes in my opinion was Muhammad Ali, and very dedicated to what he's doing, and he didn't really sway from it. And I think that's the kind of training that we want to be doing this show, and that's why I try to put things down in a template that can be digested very easily. But one of the biggest challenges is to actually have someone admit that I am going to do this. This will be part of my lifestyle. This is the purpose. I'm always good about the brother we showed earlier today, for those who are joining, who started a brand called Black Sands, is he clearly seems to know about how to be synchronized with Black people and how to progress as a collective. Like whether he confesses to be this or that, I don't know, but he seems to do it. And one of the goals of why we try to give templates is so the outcome is always of that kind of nature.
Yeah, brother. The couple who came up with the Black comic book franchise. The only thing with that, brother, is we have to look at it very strategically with African political science, because he says that if he does sell it, he's going to only sell it to an African descendant, right? Now, when we understand the political science of the non-African people, right, they will use certain tactics. So what I propose with that situation there is that the community are going to have to come together and have some form of like a bequest or a will, which is authorized by him, of course, that will be engineered to a black investor, if that makes any sense.
Make very good sense there. And by anyone wants to jump in, by all means, don't let me keep talking. But what that makes me think about is, I think we studied Michael Jackson before. Wonderful performer, one of the greatest M's in the world. You know, Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, Mike Tyson, this kind of stuff, and very, very good. And what we found with Michael Jackson is, if you just look at the pattern of what happened to him, he was a African American brother, one of the most talented pop stars of all time. But you know, he married 2 European women because, you know, it doesn't matter black and white. He adopted 3 European children. His phenotype started looking very European. Many Europeans came out and accused him of stuff that was disproved in court, and you know, he ended up having a lot of copyrights of stuff, whatever. But when he passed away, all this material that he got, all this kind of copyright of other people's music and his own copyright, was half inherited by his European children, and I suspect they're not really black Betterment led or Pan-Africanized in any kind of way. So who knows what's going to happen to this kind of stuff, right? You know, and that's something what we have to think about. Very important stuff to think about why we have second generation wealth, why we want to keep things in the community, how we can use our assets to benefit the community, and also being aware of that. What would be really remarkable is if that same spirit of the 60s and 70s, where people came out wanting to be community led. Don't get me wrong, Michael Jackson is larger than life, but he's just an example of a person who was just existing, and without, I assume, him knowing, ended up looking like a white man with 2 white wives and 3 white children. And that's what that's what the mainstream can do to you. See, that's why Dave Chappelle ran to Africa. He felt he had no choice.
Yeah, I think brother Michael Jackson's just a cautionary tale. I think he should be classed as a cautionary tale. I think, you know, at one point I just feel that he should be classed as a cautionary tale, because he did have some great attributes and was very talented. And if he was, like you said, had a protective wall around him as a community, who knows what that could have done. But I feel that is definitely a caution tale in regards to, you know, when you have come to a height of success and you're not protected,
yes,
this can happen to you.
Yes, I was watching an interview, funny enough, and he when the whole I don't know what they call it, when he was accused of the children stuff, and he had a very famous Jewish lawyer, and the first thing the Jewish lawyer told him was get rid of the Nation of Islam as your defense team, because the Nation of Islam were defending him, and he said that, you know, the media is going to look at it as a black and white thing, and you don't want them to see that it won't work in your favor in the courts. So I do notice that, rightly or wrongly, there was always an attempt to not have him around dedicated black Betterment kind of led incentives, especially in his darkest times. And what you tend to find is a lot of the most, I'm not pointing fingers, a lot of the most dangerous things outside of maybe his dad, whatever, so they say, didn't really come from inside the community. A lot of like the most damaging things of like this stuff that's happening now, this kind of like campaign of him being a pedophile, this kind of stuff. This is legacy damaging stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a shame that these things come when the person's not here anymore. And this is the kind of defense you need to have. You know, he had all these catalogs that he bought, he collected, and I don't know who owns them now.
Absolutely. And people forget that it's not just that he owns catalogs. It's the fact that he was a really shrewd businessman.
He was.
That's what pissed them off. Oh, that's what got them angry. The moves that he was making, the same that they were saying about Bill Cosby, how he was trying to buy a big, correct me if I'm wrong, brothers, he was trying to buy something.
Yeah.
Thank you,
By
brother.
NBC. I think it was NBC.
Yeah, I was going to say
Yeah.
NBC.
Yeah.
You got to check the waves. Like these men were moving in a collective way, and also doing the art. So they'll do the performance for you, not like what the brother Kel was saying to confuse you. But behind, they were making serious business moves. They weren't buying Lamborghinis and gold chains.
Yeah.
They were making legacy building decisions and moves that could change the whole scope of how you see TV and things like that. If you're buying NBC, you're buying a big giant in media. So when you get to them kind of levels, and we need to realize that we could have had that potential. I think we could have been there years ago.
It's interesting you said that. Interesting because it just jogged my memory that when you have someone like Bill Cosby who was constantly trying to make the American public and the world, I guess, high principled in the way they behave and ownership of this kind of stuff. If he had his own kind of station, then that would have been, I guess, the value set behind it, and that would have been very interesting. But it didn't really happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It would BET would have been the first, effectively. You know what I mean? Like, you don't, because they were saying that when he was doing the Cosby Show, he first consulted psychologists and things like that. So he was very thorough in his understanding of the power of media.
Yes.
And his potential to shape that, and his input.
Very, and that's why media ownership is important, because a lot of the stuff that comes out now, it's like I said, I think we're talking. We don't have that kind of think tank or defense mechanism where we charge people like you're releasing too many stuff that's damaging for the community, and that's why every other community there isn't anything that undermines their whole kind of like dignity and stuff. But with many people of African descent, Black people, you will find that there's these things that slip through. That's dignity destroying. I guess that segues back into men dressing up as women.
Yeah. I do. Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you because you're actually in a roll. Was you going to say something?
No, go ahead. I think Kel wanted to say something, but go ahead, sister.
I just want to say on the back of that, because I know I sound like I'm, defending him and stuff. I'm just saying that I can't help but to see the hypocrisy in some things, and what way to me, I'm looking at it as what weighs out more. What is more of a benefit? The fact that he wore these clothes a few times, and bearing in mind, he did say in so many interviews, "I'm done. I'm not going to be this Medea character. I'm not doing it anymore." And they kept on asking him, like his fan base were, women, and they wanted to go and see that.
Well, that's another thing, though, isn't it? That's another thing we need to highlight, like pressures of the fans and stuff. I mean, it's funny you say, because his next one came out in February 25th, so it's coming out soon.
Yeah.
And that's the Medea Homecoming.
Yeah.
That's coming out in a couple of weeks, so I don't know if he's been done yet, but I'll put that in to see. But me personally, I don't really know Medina and this kind of stuff. And it's, to be honest with you, I see it as one of that kind of like Eddie Murphy based comedy where a Black man is playing like an old woman who's comedy and stuff. I don't really hold judgment on that. But what I guess what is more problematic for me is men who don't want to dress up like women, but they have to.
Yeah, they're forced into it. And I do want to say I understand that. And I understand the arguments that are put forward, to be fair, is that, okay, number one, we know that there's an agenda going on, and then you've got this another man dressing up as a woman. And isn't it ironic that this person had to be the one to make it? Probably because he done when people think that
you see,
the parallels. That they did this ritual, you have to go dress as a woman so you've got that, and then you've got another opinion on it is the fact that his content are about Black and women relationships, and sometimes they say that he can reinforce harsh characteristics of Black people. Some Black men don't like how Black men are highlighted in his shows, in his plays. But then he has, because he's got money, he has an array of catalogs. So you can find that, but then you can find other things which were really good pieces of art. He's got a series of Why Did Why Did I Get Married, I think, and it's got like Janet Jackson in it, and it's a lovely piece of art to me. You know, there's no man dressing up as a woman.
Yeah, no, and one thing I never want to ever come across as an absolutist in anything.
Yeah,
I think in the sense of every person makes error-prone, high principle choices and content, and the ones I will be promoting is at a certain point I promote success, as in this person's a successful business tycoon. He's made studios, and then if there's any in particular show that I can say this is, you know, just like right now. I showed you the brother made Black Sands and why he did it, and his wife's there and stuff. But who knows? He might make a horror film about, you know, kids being killed and stuff. It's not really. I'm not going to promote that as, hey, look at this great stuff. Yeah, who knows? I don't know. But I think this is what it is, and you never want to. I think a point you make that's very important is, you know, when someone's being successful, you want to make sure that you're not like, you know, rallying against them very hard, because one of the things that sometimes we do is we tear down black people who are successful at a very hard rate. Like we go extra hard sometimes, and I think sometimes we need to watch that. Sometimes, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree that some people should be rated higher than others. So, for example, perhaps the brother that you showed us initially, I'd probably use as a standard rather than necessarily Tyler Perry, because I'm not necessarily sure of his motives. Although I do think there's a lot of the aspect what Kel mentioned where he is doing things maybe if you're looking in from one angle, but when you see maybe the groundwork and the hard work that he's putting in and seeing who that affects, then you can kind of see where his heart lays. But if we're weighing them together, I'd prefer someone who outly speaks it proudly on a platform, says, look, this is black business, here's my black wife, I want to keep it black. You know, that is the perfect standard. So.
Yeah, and that's something I think. Obviously, people can say one thing and do something else, but for me, it was very important that when people saw me in Speaker's Corner or on certain kind of shows, and I was doing certain things, they knew I was there to help black people become high principled and practice a form of betterment where everyone is working on, you know, black issues and finding solutions. It's very important. It's very important, and I think one of the things I am trying to promote is giving black people the permission to confess that. You see, like, and what we will find. Go ahead, brother Cal.
What I was going to say, brother, like, some of us can be direct and some of us can't.
I hear that.
That's what I was saying, that we need to understand, like, the political science strategies. I just want to touch on something, brother. So, in regards to the media franchise, right? Now, it's a brilliant idea. We should be doing this. Here is the issue, though. That because we haven't gathered any military power, brother, we're going to need to have security so it's not sabotaged by the non-Africans, right? So what I propose is, brother, is that when we have our media franchise, that there needs to be a campaign with the media that we're showing imageries with wisdom commentary, that what happens when we're not allowed to have our own things, because we can't have that security, but we have to be very realistically about our reality, right? Now, one thing I understand when it comes to the non-Africans is that they don't like to be shamed. Everything is always calculated, everything's always put under the carpet, and they don't want the whole world to know that their real intention is not to help black people, right? For example, Emmett Tim, his mother made sure that the coffin was apparent to let the world know what happened to her son, right? As well as happened to the Rodney King and many more. The point is, brother, is that we need something that balances the media effect, what Tyler Perry did. On one hand, showing our positivity and, you know, our economics, and then the other should be, you know, because we haven't been allowed, this is what happens to us. Until we can get our security to secure our economics. What do you think about that, brother?
Help me on that. So you're saying trying to demonstrate that because we don't really have a security now, this is the cause of it, as in this is the outcome. Like, do you mean like justifying? Yeah,
we
without
need
we have to be men without women and stuff. You mean like?
Yeah, because we need something, brother, that's going to protect our economics and our media franchise, right? So we need something that is very secure and protective, that things will not become sabotaged by non-African people. Because remember, brother, unfortunately, right, we haven't built allies on the African continent yet. We haven't built allies collectively yet. So we need a strategy that when we do have our media franchise power, we need something that will keep the non-Africans in check. For example, right, we're not allowed to have our things, because if we do, this is what happens. And then we show certain historical effects. So it will tell them that, you know, if we do sabotage them, the whole world is going to know that we're really bad. I know it seems a little bit obtuse, but we have to understand our reality, brother. You know what I mean? Like, where the solutions, there has to be a protective of that solution. And I'm promoting and campaigning that, brother, until we get our military security to secure our economics. As what brother Dino Kai says one time, you know, we both agreed, is that where there's economics, you need security. All non-African people that have their economics and their security. If we have no security, unfortunately, we'll have the same event of what happened in Black Wall Street.
Very true. Very true. Right, quick question. One thing I have to say though, just jogged my mind with something about a certain concept where whenever there's many things that could happen when Black people, African people invent something that's trendy and owned by them. You tend to get naturally non-Black people, European people will make their version, and one of the main goals is to make sure that all the Black people do not segue from the Black owned one to the white one. And that reminded me of back in the 70s. I think 71, this kind of stuff. The brand Soul Train, created by Don Cornelius. And when he came out of that, because it was very successful at the time, introducing new acts, there was a competitive brand called the American Bandstand.
That's right.
And I remember it couldn't compete with the Soul Train. I think because once again there was something force that came together. The only unfortunate potential thing, I could be wrong, and once again, you know, I like segueing into patterns. I'm sorry the way it is, but unfortunately, brother Don Cornelius passed away. Unfortunately, killed himself. Or so they say. In 2000 and when is it? 2012, which quite recently, funny enough, February the 1st, and his last wife was a individual known as Victoria Chapman. Hold on, let's check a sneak peek on the Google search. Let's see if the theory's right. Oh yes, blonde hair and blue eyes, of course, yes. So that's the thing, you see. So he was married to a Black woman throughout all that kind of 70s and that, but towards his death time, he married a blonde-haired, blue-eyed lady, and he owned the Soul Train. It's a shame, yeah. So I suspect maybe she might have heard it, maybe not. I don't know, but it says here that it was, let's see, spouses. So death. Okay, his death decline. Okay, is it dementia? I don't know. Autopsy. Suffered from seizures for 15 years of his life. Complication, 24-hour brain operation he underwent in 1982. All right. Oh gosh. And also, funny enough, just randomly, and I hope it's not true, in February, so he died in February 2012. In February this is February the 1st. In February the 1st, 2022, which is a couple of days ago, he was accused of sexual assaulting someone in the 70s after his death. Looks like a European person. Okay, so I'm seeing. Don't know what's happening. I'm just looking at patterns. I know I'm wrong in all things. Just something to worry about there. And what I'm saying is, Black people create stuff. Black people support it, and they own it. They end up going mad and marrying a European, and then they get accused of.
The thing is, brother Evan, it will work in our best interests until we get security that any form of franchising that has been developed by a black inventor, it should be inherited to the community. If there's more than one, then it's very difficult to take all out. And that's what I'm saying, bro, is like we have to, as a student of political science, we have to be realistically. If we've had media and we've done it so many times, the franchises, we don't have any security. So we need something that can balance that, you know, to assure that it goes to the black community until we get our military power, brother. You know, economic, as I said before, economics and security has always been hand in hand. You know, we have to think about, you know, should it be inherited to the community? Should we, you know, can we convince as a collective any investors that you know, whatever happens to them, it goes on to the community? Because technically, bro, it's the community that's going to pass on your legacy, really. You know what I mean? And that, so you should be inherited to the community instead of your intimate family. If that makes any sense.
I hear that. I'm just looking at the history because he was married to his sister wife, his black wife, sorry, I should say. And wow, okay. Oh well, it says John Cleese died shortly after his second marriage ended. So I don't know if that would mean that it might go to his children if he had any. I don't know. I know he was quite depressed, to be honest, I think, if I was right. Very good show that was, the Soul Train. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good show. I remember it.
Yeah, and very good visuals as well, seeing brothers and sisters dancing and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, and then obviously there was the American Bandstand, which was what we were talking about, the European kind of copy version and that. But yeah, unfortunately, the brother passed away a few years back. Oh well, very good. Oh dear. All right, Empress Christie, anything you would like to bring up on that? We've been talking back and forth for some time, so I just thought your opinions on
I
that.
just agree. It's a bit of a shame listening to his history, really. You know, the second one failed and he died shortly after that.
Right.
And he's such a great icon. It's and it's only now. It's not even. I think they've waited nearly how many years since his death to bring this up, which is it's odd as well. So
Yeah, it's very interesting. A very interesting pattern of
yeah.
yeah.
I agree. And I'm not sure if this pattern's always been like this. Not to this point of this new. To me, it seems new when they die, a lot of tarnishing their legacy and their reputation comes about. And I think there's a number of reasons to that. I think definitely it's financial, because with everything with us, it just boils down to financial, and the treatment and the reasoning for our treatment. So yeah, I just find that interesting.
I have
Because,
noticed.
for example, if for example, the Cosby Show or R. Kelly's music or Michael Jackson's music or all the series now of what was you brothers just talking about?
Oh, the Soul Train.
Right, all of the series of the Soul Train, right? So, for example, all of these brothers have been tarnished, right? And they're constantly trying to remind you of what they're doing. They won't let up. And so as in our community as well. And you can say that's good or bad, but at the business side of it, I'm saying is what happens to the property, the intellectual property. So what happens to all of the music? What happens to all of those series of the Cosby Show or the show that you brothers were just talking about? Or, what happens to this? Like, who owns it? And how long is it going to be okay for us to hear it in a BMW advert somewhere down the line in 20, 50 years? It's just, there's always a reasoning behind this pattern. It's not for no reason. I feel like this pattern is quite recent as well. Beforehand, in their life, the tarnishing them and making it difficult, all the other stuff. But this kind of sexual spin after they're dead, seems new to me. But
it's very historical, sister, because they did it with Sam Cooke as well. The brilliant singer from the the 50s, etc. They did it
Yeah.
with him. Any form of revolutionary mindset that they have, they assassinate the character. This is nothing new, or due respect to you, it's very historical. They've all done
Actually,
it.
you're right,
And,
because when I think of Nina
yeah,
Simone and other people from
yeah,
then, they have literally. But what I was saying is, I understand of them breaking it down, but the legacy, the focus on, I don't know if I'm saying it properly. I feel like there's something about this intellectual property, their art or the business or whatever, that they are really focused on killing, because we've got this cancel culture now as well. So it's like whoever's tied to these royalties, like all of the catalogs that Michael Jackson owns and things like that, can you get money off of it if you're tarnished? And I don't know, to me there's just a different spin, but I understand what you're saying as well, and I do understand that it's always been there, but to me it's just, there's something different about it now. I don't know if I'm making sense.
that's what I was saying to Bobby Raven, is that we need a solution, right? Exactly what you were saying, because we know that anytime we get in power of economics and that, it's a threat, especially in America. You know what I mean? And that, because it just takes one of them, one African American and that, to become a billionaire, and they could solve all the problems of Africa.
Exactly, with the right mindset. So true.
But that's what I was saying to Bobby Raven and that, right, is that as students of political science, as it pertains to helping our people, we need an effective security power to keep that in check. Could we say in allowing them to inherit the profit to the community before they even become like a star, so it's passed down? Or do we have to kind of use enforcement, which I wouldn't advise now because we're not kind of synchronized? We need a solution for that. I hope Brother Raven could we can perhaps sit down and discuss. Look at the grime thing. The grime is getting powerful, man. I mean, you can become a YouTube grime star overnight, and you're making money. So we need something to convince our people to keep that generational wealth, even though we don't have the military power.
But I think that's what the NOI do so well. I think that's why the NOI can still hold a president with some of the best artists, if we're talking about the music industry, and speak in their ear or ask them to show up at a march or things like that. I think that is missing. This, like I said, the safeguard, a wall, this presence, this enforcement, this something that I can trust. If I've made it, which is hard enough because you don't see many people like me, I want something bigger and strong, or some sort of institution that I can sign up to, that I know has some form of power. And the NOI kind of provided that in certain instances. They and they're used to dealing with people, black people, who have reached a certain level and probably battling certain things. They're not shy from that, and they can lend information, and they've got the history of their history, and but what do you have if you suddenly made it, and you're in this kind of sector now, and this price bracket, and you look around and there's not really anyone there? And that's why it's so easy to get at them. And this is what I'll say about Michael Jackson. There was nothing, nothing. There was nothing there. They're just like this beaming light, and these mosquitoes are just like going for him, like they're just going for it. So, yeah, I think that's what is needed. I think there needs to be some sort of base institution, or I always say our own defense anti-defamation league, something like that, to support. But that only gets building up by building businesses and things like that, and building into people who say, I want to keep this black. Because you can tell that if you came to him now, Brother Raven, with a proposal of a fundraiser for another school or an after school program, it's more than likely that he would support that. He'd be a backer. And this is why I always say it stems down to business. So,
yeah. So for those who want to know Sam Cooke's history, Sam Cooke was one of the first soul singing stars who came from the gospel roots. Very talented brother. And what he did that was quite remarkable is he started his own record label. I think one of the first signings he had was Muhammad Ali, who was singing like rapping kind of poetry kind of stuff. And unfortunately, what happened? There's a lot of unfortunate things happened in Sam Cooke's life, but the one that actually ended that was quite, that we're talking about was he was accused of chasing a Asian woman through a hotel, I believe, and I think it was a sister who shot him, saying she feared for the the Asian woman's life. And what they found is his neck was broken in many different places, I think, and they didn't understand how that would happen from a gunshot. So there was something, but there was a lot of also gangster connections from like Italian gangsters leaning on musicians and stuff. I can't remember. I read into it one time, but yeah, it was one of those. No one really believed how it happened, but what he did that was quite unique is I think he was the first black person that was on label. I think it was before Motown. I think it's definitely before Motown.
Yeah, he was Raven. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, definitely Motown. What was it called? I'm trying to
So
find
his scandals while it was in his lifetime. Was there anything that said about him after he died, though?
No. So the scandal of his death was his death was the scandal.
Okay.
In his life, he was quite respected. There was a film that came out with a character playing him, Muhammad Ali, and someone else.
Yes, One Night in Something. I didn't get to see it properly.
Yeah, I think it's on Amazon. I can't remember. And the guy who's playing Malcolm X is now apparently playing Bob Marley, and in some next film they're making. But I remember that film. But the only scandal that was his life wasn't really about around him. Was he's the guy he signed to his record label. The guy he gave a break, Bobby Womack, was having an affair with his wife, and I think when something happened where his brothers went to beat him up or something like this, I can't remember. But that was the only thing.
Was his wife black?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. In those days, the only person I know in those days who had a non-black wife, who was dedicated to have a non-black wife, was
the boxer.
No, I'm not talking about the first boxer. He definitely was, and they got him for that. I'm talking. What was his name? He's probably the second best entertainer of all time. Literally, he's part of the Rat Pack.
Oh,
Sammy Davis. Sammy Davis.
He became Jewish, but what happened is because he wanted to marry a Swedish model.
Oh, excuse me. He became what?
He was Jewish. Yeah, he became.
But you have to break that down for us,
He was trying to pick a faith, and he decided that he relates more with the Jewish community.
Yeah.
I think he said because of struggling purposes. I can't remember. So he became Jewish, but what happened was he wanted to marry a Swedish model, and because the Swedish model was an actor, the gangsters who ran the movie industry at the time knew that if she became married to him, it would ruin all her movie chances. So what they did is they forced him to marry a black sister, which was an amazing thing to do. But he was, he really wanted to marry this European woman. I think he might have. I'm just trying to think of after many years or something like that. We're going to cover that. Sammy Davis Jr.'s trials and tribulations and stuff. Sammy, but he was one of the.
Yeah,
he was
especially
one
his
of the
affiliation to the Rat Pack. Like that'd be a really interesting character to break down. Honestly.
Yeah. He was seen as probably one of the greatest entertainers. He was like Michael Jackson in the 50s or 60s or something. Well, no, not 50s.
That's right, yeah, man. That's
Yes,
right.
he was. And he died because of I want to say lung cancer. I remember he smoked a lot and he refused to stop. And I know he lost his eye doing some accident. Relationship and marriages. Here we go. He was involved with Kim Novak, which that must be the Swedish one, I'm assuming, because when I click on her, it's clearly a European woman. Unless there was plenty, there might be. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know who he married. Quite a lot of European women here, to be honest. Who was his last wife? Because I wonder who inherited his estate. Partners. Oh, okay. Was that Elvira Sanchez? That looks like when did they get married? Let's see what his sister is. It looks like a sister. I could be wrong. Yeah. Is that his last wife? Or is that his mum? I don't even know. Whoops, I don't know what's going on there. Hold on. Oh, it's the mother. Whoopsie daisy. Okay, that was his mother. His parents. Right, because Sammy James Senior was his dad, of course. Just had the same name.
Yeah,
Thinking, why is he marrying his mum? It's his dad. There you go. Makes sense now. Right. His last spouse was a black woman in the 1970s. Alta Gore, and I'm probably reading that wrong. Joanne Davis, also known as Gore, Alta V's. But looks like a sister. Yep, 65 years old, died in 2009.
That's not the one he was forced to marry, was it?
No, the one I think he forced to marry. I think that was Lorraine White. Let me check if that was Lorraine White. Let me see if that's. Yeah, I forced him to marry. Yep, that was that was the black woman. Wonderful sister. He should have been very grateful. But the gangsters did them good that way. But I think he was dedicated to be with the European lady.
That
May
forbidden fruit mentality, isn't it?
Yeah, she died. No, she's still alive. She's alive. She's 87, still here. Looks like famous actor, as I thought. And a lot of her stuff was controlled by, I want to say, the Italian mob. I think it was the Italian mob. Although I remember she was from Sweden, but am I wrong? She was discovered by Italian filmmakers. That's probably the connection to the gangsters. And she's Stockholm photographer. Okay, which is the largest. Sweden. There you go. My memory isn't as bad as I thought it was. Yeah, and that's what happened. Yeah, there you go. Spouse Sammy James. So she was married to him for 8 years. Let's see how long the other one, the sister was. The sister was 1 year. Oh, there. So now.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess. And after that year, he got married to her. So I guess when the movies came out and it was no longer an issue, he could marry her. When did he die? He died in 1990. So does that mean that he died with his wife as Joanne Davis? Perhaps. Yeah. Well, like I said, I hope if he had any kind of estate, she inherited it, and children, all that, got that. You have to know it's like many of the biggest, like Michael Jordan, Eddie Murphy, the Fubu brother. A lot of them in their older years, they marry non-black women, and their inheritance tend to go to them 50%, and that kind of stuff. I'm sure it's just randomly that's happening. I don't think there's a pattern there.
Brother Raven, it'd be good on your show if you could do like you can get like an African descendant, male or female, that could break down the will and the bequest of how you can capitalize and secure generational wealth. I think a lot of the youth and even us adults, man, don't seem to understand the curriculum of it. I think it would be a great show, man.
Yeah, I'll write that down. And I think what's important as well is when we're trying to influence influencers and artists and this kind of stuff, because they do have an impact, is trying to make that a trendy concept. Like, I'm going to marry a sister and my children are going to inherit this and inherit that, and the community is going to benefit from that. Let's make it sound more trendy, whatever. Because obviously, if we can make augmenting our bodies and taking chemicals and shooting each other, if we can make that very trendy, then I'm sure we can make fixing the community and marrying a sister and having a legacy even trendy as well. I think that we'll do that. That's a good idea. I'll write that down. No, generational wealth. I was going to have a sister come and talk about finances.
Generational wealth, brother. Not generational wealth. More of understanding the will and bequest that will lead to generational wealth. We've done a show like that already. But the will, brother, of how to secure, kill them to secure the generational wealth, that needs to be unpacked, brother. That needs to be unpacked.
Yeah, because I feel like I think sometimes it seems like such a big task, especially to get through to artists, for example. I'm talking about the artists that have made it, and to make them change their mindset. But even the whole word of like a celebrity is shifting, because people like Kim K, and who's not necessarily famous for anything, has probably got more influence on people than what someone who would have mastered their craft. When we talk about the people that we've talked about before, they'd mastered their craft. You know, they kind of earned that position, and now it's shifted. People who are more visible, people who are making more of an influence on people, are influencers, and people who are not necessarily in the art game, if that makes sense. Not to say that, you know, athletes and artists are not still, you know, worshipped, but I do think that they've got competition, because they wouldn't be stepping into the podcasting game and everything else game if there wasn't something in there, you know. So, or they didn't want to feel relevant, at least. So yeah, I think it is, what I'm saying is that I do think it's possible to do what Brother Kel was saying, and make it not necessarily just to explain to them what it is, but make it a desire for the youth to want that, to want to. And the youth are saying that, you know, the youth are saying that they want a legacy build. They are starting quite young than what they did when I was their age, and thinking about their future and things like that, but they're not necessarily thinking of doing it with somebody else, like a sister. They're not thinking about legacy. They're not thinking about Black Betterment alongside that.
And that's kind of the problem, in the sense of, like, you know, if you're going to end up like Michael Jordan and these kind of people, like, you know, where you're out of the community in your efforts, then essentially, well, that seems to be where people go anyway. If they either have no legacy, or they start a legacy in another community. So, you know, the perfect people to look at is the Pushkins. Is it Pushkins? The guy who wrote all the am I saying his name right? The Three Musketeers, brother. Yeah, he's Brother Pushkin, and his mum was the first was the enslaved Congolese woman. She had a very famous general's son. He married a European. The son married a European. Then the son married a European, and then now it's a European. He's invested all the money that they had. It's all gone to a European family and stuff. And that's kind of how it kind of works. So I think that's something we have to highlight as well, like showing people where people's money ended up.
No, definitely.
Yeah, because, you know, brother, because the reason I was saying that for is that we have to be realistically about reality right now. How do we secure the generational wealth? And we need a will, brother. The youth need to understand how a will operates, man. You know, how the ins and outs of it, because, you know, I appreciate that brother and his wife going on the breakfast show, you know, being very high pitch in all things. But at the same time, brother, if he's going to sell that only to a black investor, and that, he's gonna need like a bequest or a will to make sure that continues. And that's what I'm saying. We need to learn.
Yes, I hear what you're saying. Well,
yeah,
as in, like, making sure that the people we sell our stuff to shares the same mindset as we do, as in the purpose behind everything, continuing the purpose, as in, like, this is for the community, this is for Black Betterment, this is for Pan-Africanism, this is an asset that is here to contribute to Black Betterment, to Black people achieving and staying within the community. And if you're going to buy it, regardless of your being Black isn't enough anymore. It's being Black and synchronized, right? Because there was
right. And it must come in the form of a will, brother Raven, to block certain strategic political signs of the non-Africans, if that makes any sense, right?
I hear that. And I guess when we look at brother who does the FUBU, very talented brother, but I guess him marrying a European lady, which is good power to him. But then if the community has been funding him for decades, because they're saying buy us for us, you know, and that's why I think I know it sounds very controversial, but I think I really
that's hypocritical. That's the stuff that really gets on people's nerves. Like, you know, that's very, and like what the brother said who came here before, that it is hypocritical. You know, your whole slogan for us by us.
Yeah. And I think that's important that we what I've been trying to push is this concept of a black betterer, there's a certain rule sets. And I know when I've gone out there and I've obviously tried to talk to brothers, they've been heartbroken when you know, it doesn't matter how much you do for the community. If you're not actually doing certain things, i.e. one, you're picking a sister, whatever, you know, or some African descendant person, whatever, then it's actually not, you actually can't be considered a certain thing. And that's why I think the vegan analogy is amazing, because why the vegan analogy is amazing is you can literally say, yes, you can help, you can massage ducks, you can buy a cow a house, but if you eat a dog, you're not a vegan. You know, it's just how it is. Doesn't, you know what I mean? And I think, and that sounds very strict.
Definitely.
But I think I do
It's
wonder
clarity, and
yeah.
people need clarity, bro, especially within our community.
Yeah, and I think if you follow me in Speaker's Corner, you realize I would always highlight that, like, no, this is one of the core things. And I think, I know it sounds very weird, but making black people embarrassed to ever go against that might need to be a strategy. Like, actually embarrassed, like absolutely embarrassed that you forget how black people are produced.
Yeah, definitely. Because
You know
it's
what I
the
mean?
only wake up call, because you can literally see it in their face. If anytime the family sees your video, it's like when you when you ask certain questions or you break it down like that, you can kind of just see the bulb in their head to go, you know, and then they start stuttering and backtracking, you know.
Yeah,
But
I mean, every video I've done, they've taken off. Just so you know, anytime I've talking about the the Black Love campaign and why constructive black man, constructive black woman, I've noticed most of those views are now gone. So it's a shame, really. But
no way, what YouTube have?
not YouTube, because I've done a lot on Instagram, on people's private pages. Because obviously,
yeah.
a brother might make a comment about a sister, and I jump in and say, "Oh, let's think about that now." And then, you know, they get.
Right. You think you should record them? You know, you can record
I
them.
try, yeah. I sometimes I've looked at some of the technology that Instagram, I'm not too sure. Because YouTube I can, but
Yeah.
the good thing is most of YouTube stuff is from content of everything, and that's still there.
Yeah, that's
and but once again, it's important that when you see me in doing like community work, you know what I'm about. Like, and the more people that like in Speaker's Corner, everyone knows I'm about Black Betterment, because that's how I present myself. So that might be an important strategy of getting a whole lot of people who are about these particular things. Very clear. That's what they're about. Kind of like when you see the Muslims, they're about giving dawah. You know this, right?
Yeah.
And I think black people helping black people, but very specific. Like let's get this down to a certain core, like black economics, black love. You know what I mean? There's just basic stuff and why that's important. That's something that we have to push it.
But it's very important that those people who represent that do not go against that.
Yeah, and that's why we have to have a strategy of, and that's why we have words like unsynchronized, black betterers, things that actually describe things very quickly, and error-prone, high principle, and this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Because there's so many things that can make things challenging. You have a person who's completely synchronized with what you're doing, but they're 100% error-prone. It's like, oh gosh, this is not going to work. Like you got, I mean, you've got to be high principled in your delivery of this stuff, or it's going to kind of backfire, mate.
So would you say then, brother, and it's a brilliant idea what you just said there, on top of understanding how a will works or bequest, should we have templates how to teach African descendants to invite those to Black Betterment? For example, talking about, generational wealth, how it's passed down, and things like that. Something which is summarized but can be used. Because a lot of us, brother, we don't know how to, the Honorable Marcus Garvey said you have to be salesmen. Some of us are not really good at orthodox skills. So if we have a blueprint to teach how to invite, as you were saying with the Muslims, that they invite, and I'm sure they have certain principles that they use to help the one who they're trying to guide to the salvation. Should we have the same type of intention in regards to talking about this first, then that, to steer the person to Black Betterment?
Yeah, we do, and that's something that we have to refine. Like one thing that I do, I start all the shows this way, is you highlight a challenge. Some people, there's two strategies. Some people highlight something that could be deemed as positive. sometimes people highlight things that might be problematic, that needs a solution, and it's going to be problem. It's going to be issues. For me, the issue is highlighting, and I know maybe somewhat controversial, but actually getting people to admit that black people are collectively inadequate. The reason why this is so valuable when it comes to your starting picture of why of getting black people synchronized with it is because just like the alcoholic or the drug abuser, by admitting this, by acknowledging this, your mind will automatically try to find solutions. You see, but what we do is we benchmark, we brand, and that's why when I communicate with other people and they start doing things like, oh, well, actually, it doesn't matter if I do this, it doesn't matter if I do that, then highlight, well, if you do that, that means you're contributing to the collective inadequacy of black people, right? And you're actually benefiting other communities over your own, and that collective process, that dedicated collective process, is why we are collectively inadequate, and that's why the analogy of a good team is important. Like individually, black people are remarkable, but as a team, there's issues, and it's like, brother or sister, do you want to be a part of this team? And let them because there was, I think, Dr. Umar, he had an interview where two brothers just came and said, yeah, I don't do things for black people, I do things for myself. So making that open, that proud statement, making that like just like, okay, we just making that the most shameful thing a person can do, because it is important. Sometimes we're very kind in people's confusion, but actually there needs to be certain things that people just feel completely foolish to say.
Yeah.
Kind of like recently where we had those gentlemen openly saying they don't date black women and then going off on one and this kind of stuff. It's like, yeah. And don't get me wrong, that I think you don't like othering people, but sometimes you might have to other people just to show that what you're doing is keeping us so low that
this is why this is my frustration, though, bro. This is why I say working to change people is not going to get us anywhere.
No.
If the likes of you, for example, are going to invest energy in converting people where some of them are too far gone anyway. It's not like people walk around with a sign on their head and you know what they're about.
Yeah.
So you're stalling what could be progress. You're investing energy in something that is not moving when you could invest in energy when people are like-minded.
Yeah.
And the way I see it is, when I look within our community, for example, the NOI, I don't see the NOI recruiting or doing dawah.
No.
You never see the NOI necessarily saying that. The NOI presents itself in public. If you want to know about the NOI, you have to listen to them speak.
Yeah.
You have this, when you see them, it's uniform. You always see them with the suits, you see them with bow ties, and you see them with certain colors. It's very uniform. You only see the men; they're very disciplined. You don't ever see any of them eating on the side or having a talk or a conversation. They're very disciplined. There's a uniform where every time you see the NOI, NOI doesn't ever say join us. NOI presents themselves in the stature that makes people say, "Who are you? I want to learn to you." They make the people come to them.
Very true. And I think that
to them, you then find out the regulations and the rules and the ways that you have to behave.
Very true.
And we're not saying, if you're not there yet and you still want to work with us, we'll help you, brother or sister. But these are the guidelines and the rules.
Very true. I think one thing that I'm doing is I'm admitting that that not everyone in the black community is going to do anything constructive, and actually you don't need that, because a small percentage of people dictate what the large population do. That's how life has always been. So with my thing is, I'm highlighting that within the black community there are many naturally black led people who might not have the knowledge or the symbolic signs or the more ways, whatever it is, to actually collate all that into an active, constructive person, And that's why putting things in the form of a lifestyle and words and actions could be very helpful to actually highlight that person, because you're right. There's some people that's gonna be so far gone that, and I would say on when I'm talking publicly, that I'm talking through people to someone else. You see, like many of the people who are so far gone, some people might assume that I'm trying to actually make them better and stuff. Well, actually, I'm talking through them to someone listening, and that's why I have a certain way of delivering stuff. So that's how I see it, and that's why I'm using this term, which I'm going to keep promoting more, is Black custodians or Afro custodians, depending on how people want to say it. And the reason that's important is because that's another word of conversation that can sway me away from. Can you hear me, sister?
Yeah, you did just cut out for me.
Did I? Oh, yeah. What I was saying is, I am saying
this word from African custodian.
Yeah, Black or Afro custodian. Let's see if I can get that word there. Very important word. And let's see if we go there before we end the show. Oh, there we go. Patterns. Okay, we go. Yeah, who are the custodian of Black people? So and that's another thing, people there. If you're trying to make solutions, that you ask yourself that question, like, who are the custodians of Black people? Like, who is actually looking after Black people? Because technically, no one, right? For the most part. So that's why you have to go, well, are you going to be one, isn't it? And then a person who is responsible for taking care of protecting someone, that's custodian. Now, if that's the case, is that person going to be promoting the Black Love campaign? Of course, because if you're there to look after Black people, you have to understand how to produce Black people. What about economics? Are they going to be trying to dedicate to economics and improvement? Of course they are, because you're the Black custodian, right? So these words should be able to help you stay dedicated and not, because what will happen is, as Brother Carl was saying, when you try to be dedicated to certain things, non-Black people and unsynchronized Black people will talk and move in a way that try to get you away from that concept, and they'll use like emotional certain tactics. There was one brother who was talking about, well, if you keep talking about Black Love campaign, what about the so-called biracial, multiracial people? How will they feel? And these kinds of stuff, right? And once again, not caring about, Black people trying to actually love each other, right? And you're talking about other things and trying to have emotional heartstrings and stuff. And then you go, well, regardless of what you want to say, who is the Black custodian and what is our role? Our role is to do all things for the Black community, because no one else will. So we can't talk about what about these, what about them, because what about the Black people, the people who actually are suffering the most? You see? So it's just about really having words that makes you, oh yeah, I'm a Black custodian, it's okay. Just like you will never go to a Muslim and say, well, what about Jesus Christ? What about Buddha? It makes no sense, because no, that's got nothing to do with us. We're Muhammad. You see, what about non-Black people? No, it's got nothing to do with us. We're the custodians. We're about Black people, aren't we? Like, it's not even part of our topic range. That you have to go and talk to the European custodians or the Asian custodians about that particular thing. But that's got nothing to do with Black people. So only Black custodians deal with Black issues. So we have a lifestyle that is dedicated to Black issues, and we understand that we are custodians. So all these words hopefully should help you not be bamboozled and taken off course. But family, we are at 12:27 because actually, good stuff goes long. So any last words from Empress Christian, Brother Cal?
I just to say that I liked what you said there. I like the breakdown. You've made it very clear in regards to the custodian, with that analogy. And it was another good topic, so it was really good to be a part of it. And I would just say that on the basis of what we was talking about, I just look at things that if someone who's made it, but obviously are not planning to do anything with bringing the wealth back into the community, I say that is good for them. And if there is someone like the brother that you highlighted who is definitely doing something great for him and his family and also the community, then I see that brother is something that's good for us. And that's just how I distinguish things going forward now.
Thank you. Brother Cal?
Yeah, bro, I believe that we have to definitely market codes of conduct based upon custodians, man. Instead of having leaders, the word custodian should be the blueprint set by templates to govern the people. Definitely, custodian is the way forward.
Thank you, brother. I shall do more symbolic work around that, just promotion to make that more appealing for people to take responsibility. And I actually think that could work. Thank you, brother. So for you guys, check you next week. Until then, Black people, Black Betterment. Don't forget, we want to be Black Betterers and custodians of the community. Let's go. All right, have a good one. See you later.